Chapter 49, The Choices We Make 3. Senju Compound. It was a beautiful day in Konoha. It was warm and sunny all over. The sun was coming up shining upon Konoha as the merchants were opening their stores to start up a fresh new day. A few sunrays broke through the village's barrier and started waking up people inside the houses. This was the unfortunate event for Naruto. The room was dark and a few beams passed through the window and hit him right in the eyes, waking him up from his slumber. He released a small yawn and tried to shift in bed but realized that he couldn't move. He looked down and smiled at his princess, who snuggled next to him, resting her head in his shoulder. There was something about having Hinata sleeping on his chest that just felt right. One of the things he enjoyed most was waking up with Hinata next to him. Feeling her warmth against his body, caressing her soft hair. She noticed that Naruto was looking at her with a warm smile. She returned the smile just before she closed her eyes again and placed her head on his chest, releasing a sigh of bliss and happiness. Naruto had proposed last night and Hinata had accepted, and now they would be together forever. It didn't get any better than that. Although the room itself might disagree. For starters, there were clothes everywhere. Naruto's vest and pants were near the door, which meant that they were the first to go. Hinata's jacket and bra were also nearby, although her pants and underwear were actually near the window. Only Kami knows how they got there. "I'm so happy that I just want to run and jump everywhere," Naruto whispered, and Hinata giggled lightly. "I know the feeling," Hinata replied. "After everything we have been through, we are finally together forever," Hinata explained, and Naruto gently kissed her forehead. "I'm the luckiest guy in the world," Naruto said. "Are you crying?" Hinata asked, smiling as she saw his moist eyes. "Of course not," Naruto quickly replied. "It's just dust that got in my eye," Naruto replied, scrubbing his eyes. Hinata knew the truth very well. For someone who never had a family, he just got one of his own. "You know," Hinata started as she looked up. "We are going to need a new bed," Hinata said as Naruto sighed. Last night had been one of commemoration on their engagement and they got a little carried away. "It was your idea to try doing it while we were on sage mode," Naruto chuckled. "Like you didn't love it," Hinata teasingly replied, kissing his cheek. "Senjutsu empowers all of our senses," Hinata explained blissfully. "And also our strength, and that is why we broke our bed," Naruto said, shaking his head, and watched as Hinata rose up and straddled him. The sheets fell to the bed, revealing Hinata's naked form. "It's not like it's going to break again," Hinata lustfully said. "Such a tease," Naruto complained, and Hinata giggled. "Are you going to do something about it?" Hinata asked, giggling like a schoolgirl. "Maybe," Naruto half lied and rose up to meet Hinata's lips. Naruto embraced Hinata, pulling her closer as Hinata ran her hands through Naruto's long spiky hair. Their lips met with fierce passion. Naruto turned her around and gently lowered her on the bed, making him stand on top. Hinata hummed in delight as Naruto kissed her neck and gently fondled her breasts. "Knock knock, Naruto-kun, if you don't hurry you will miss breakfast," Kushina said as she knocked on the door just before walking away. "This sucks," Naruto frowned as he stopped his actions and simply laid on the bed. "Maybe not," Hinata replied and got up. She started walking to the bathroom, swaying her hips in a sexy manner. Naruto could only stare at her and follow her movements. "Right. We must preserve water," Naruto said in conviction before he got up and quickly followed Hinata into the shower. Water was a precious resource after all. Senju Compound, kitchen. The doors to the kitchen opened and everyone in there shifted their attention to the couple approaching. Both of them had huge smiles of their faces and everyone noted how Hinata seemed to be more clingy than usual. They had such happy expression that it was intoxicating. "Looks like someone had a good night," Jiraiya said, wiggling his eyebrows. He was lucky enough that Tsunade wasn't there, otherwise he would already be buried on the ground. "Better than good," Hinata said dreamily and raised her hand to show the purple and silver ring on her finger. "Naruto-kun proposed last night," Hinata happily said and sat down, but was quickly surrounded by Kushina and Mito wanting the juicy details. "About time," Naruto Hashirama said, chuckling, making Hinata raise an eyebrow in confusion. "What do you mean?" Hinata asked. "You don't know what we suffered with him always haunting us for advice. Where to propose, when to propose, what to say. It was a nightmare," Hashirama explained, and Naruto groaned. Hinata didn't have to know that. "Really?" Hinata asked, surprised, looking at Naruto. You should have seen him when he came to me to ask how I proposed to Kushinachi. Minato chuckled, reminiscing of that particular moment. He began wondering what to say and when to do it. He looked like a headless chicken until he began to hyperventilate and proceeded to pass out, falling flat on the ground, Minato said, laughing. Father, Naruto complained, and Minato just chuckled. These are the good memories one should remember, Naruto, Minato advised, rising up. By the way, good work on the Hyuga clan. I'm proud of you, Minato said, making Naruto smile. It went better than I thought. It's a good thing that the clan is still stable even without the caged bird seal, Tobirama said in afterthought. It's good we didn't tell them everything. Can you imagine Hayashi's face if we told them that the Byakugan comes from the Sharingan? Naruto chuckled and began eating until he realized that everyone was staring at him, including Minato, who was about to leave. Is there something on my face? Naruto asked, confused about the stares. Hold on, Tobirama said. Back up, Hashirama added. What do you mean by the Byakugan coming from the Sharingan? Minato asked, summarizing everyone's questions. Oh yeah, I forgot, me and Hinata never told you guys this, Naruto replied, scratching the back of his head, making everyone else sweat drop. No one else knew where the Byakugan came from because they never had access to both archives. Since I had access to the Uchiha's library and Hinata to the Hyugas, we stumbled upon several files and simply cross-matched them to find the origin of the Byakugan. Naruto began. According to the files, a few hundreds of years ago one lone Uchiha left the clan. It isn't clear if he was a pure blood or a half-blood one, but it doesn't matter at this point. He traveled the world until he fell in love with a woman he met during his travels. Everything seemed normal unless for the fact that this woman had a genetic near-blindness defect, Naruto said. They eventually married and had kids. The Sharingan gene got passed on into the kids and did what he do best. Dujutsus grant the user perfect vision regardless of use or age. Combining this with the genetic blindness gave origin to the Byakugan. A less powerful Dujutsu than the Sharingan, but far more powerful in vision, detail and range. Naruto finished his explanation and everyone simply nodded. So that means that the Hyugas were related to the Uchihas in some way, Minato said, and Naruto nodded. That stick up their asses had to come from somewhere, Tobirama said, making everyone chuckle. It's one big coincidence for one Uchiha to fall in love for this particular woman, Jiraiya said in afterthought, and Naruto nodded. All bloodlines begin somewhere. Either from the mixing of several genes or simply by one mutating into something viable. Survival of the fittest, Naruto replied, and everyone resumed their breakfast. By the way, Kushina said, getting the attention. Have you two picked a date? Kushina asked Giddy. She couldn't wait for grandchildren to smooth her with affection. She just knew that a kid from Naruto and Hinata would utterly adorable. Naruto-kun just proposed last night and we didn't talk about it that much. But I do not wish for some big wedding ceremony. I just want our closest friends with Tsunade Sensei preceding the ceremony, Hinata said, and Naruto nodded as well. They didn't wish for some big celebration of their engagement. A simple reunion with their closest friends was far more appealing, and the point of it all. Otogakure, deep within the Sound Village, everything was quiet. It was such silence that one may consider it creepy and unsettling. The streets were completely empty and not even birds were heard. Isn't it strange for a village being named Sound Village when there was no such thing presently? No, a scream echoed through the empty halls of the main building in the village. Crows burst from the trees from the sudden sound spike. Entering the Otokage Tower and proceeding down into the basements, one seemed to pick up some sniffling sounds. Walking down the halls and approaching the origin of the sound, we come into a pitch-black room. The walls were of brown stone, torches along the walls provided some much necessary light. The whole base seemed to give off some dark and evil aura. The whole ambience seemed taken from some horror movie. As we approached the room, a small trail of blood was seen leaking from the room. It flowed through the floor and into the middle of the hall, and it showed no signs of stopping. The blood started pooling in the middle of the hall, and from the quantity of it, someone was dead. Peering inside, we find two figures on the room. One simply laid on the ground with her eyes a hollow white and her skin a ghostly white, like it had been drained of all of their blood. Above this figure stood another one kneeling next to the downed one. This figure had a white long-sleeved shirt which was open at the torso. He wore dark blue pants with a blue cloth hanging from halfway up his stomach to his knees. He also wore black arm guards that covered his forearms and stretched up to reach his upper biceps. He also wore a purple rope belt around his waist, tied in a bow. He was Uchiha Sasuke, a genetic clone that Orochimaru had engineered from the original one. Sasuke was kneeling next to this person as he weakly gripped a sword that was pushed right through the figure's chest, directly through her heart. Blood continued leaking from the wound as it flowed to the hall. "Why Koto-chan?" Sasuke cried as he looked to the dead eyes of his friend. He couldn't understand why she would attack him out of nowhere. She had long black hair, which is in a Heim-style cut, and black, pupilless eyes. Attire-wise, she wore a pale green form-fitting vest, with an opening in the center which shows off her cleavage and her stomach, and a camouflage-patterned scarf and skirt. "I loved you," Sasuke said, looking away from her when realization hit him. He had just killed the only person he cared for in this village, the only person he loved. He couldn't fathom as to why she attacked him. They were good friends ever since they met a few weeks ago, and Sasuke knew he liked her more than simple friend. Why? Sasuke wailed in grief as his Sharingan unwillingly flared to life. It was almost a cruel punishment that his Sharingan should flare. Punishment, as the Sharingan would forever remember the scene that lay just before him. The scene with Sasuke driving a sword through his lover's heart and blood pouring everywhere. Sasuke swiped his cheek with his hands to try clear the tears. Sasuke's chakra spiked and his Sharingan flared to life. It had 3 tomos. A chunk of chakra was funneled towards his eyes and Sasuke's Sharingan started spinning and glowing. In the pitch-black room, his Sharingan was the thing that definitely stood out. Blood-red eyes with pitch marks marking spinning and glowing. His eyes began to slow down and the 3 tomos were completely gone. A whole new pattern was revealed to the world. His eyes were black in the background with 3 blood-red intersecting ellipses. Sasuke's eyes had changed into the all-powerful Manjikyu Sharingan. "What's this?" Sasuke wondered out loud, looking down. Yet again he could see his own reflection in the blood pooling on the ground. It seemed yet another cruel joke that he had to endure. "That is the Manjikyu Sharingan." The next stage of the Sharingan, young Sasuke Orochimaru said as he stepped into the room and looked at the gruesome display. He couldn't but smirk that his plan worked so flawlessly. He knew that the girl had a crush on young Sasuke and he simply had to play things right for it to work. "Why?" Sasuke asked and Orochimaru got confused. "Why did she attack me?" Sasuke sadly asked and Orochimaru frowned. It was good that he attained the Manjikyu, but he never expected Sasuke to bond with the girl to the extent of actually loving her. She must have had her reasons, Orochimaru simply replied, walking towards Sasuke and kneeling beside him. "Come with me, Sasuke-kun," Orochimaru said, rising back up and walking towards the door when he noticed that Sasuke hadn't moved yet. Sasuke was still staring at the girl's corpse. "What will happen to her?" Sasuke asked. "She will have a proper burial later on," Orochimaru replied and watched as Sasuke rose and began walking towards him. "I will help you forget the pain you are feeling," Orochimaru said, and Sasuke only nodded. "Kabuto," Orochimaru said, and Kabuto stepped out from the shadows. "Clean the room." "I will," proceeded with the ritual, Orochimaru informed him, and Kabuto nodded. Orochimaru and Sasuke walked into another pitch-black room with strong wooden doors. The door cringed as it opened to reveal a seemingly empty room. "Come, Sasuke-kun," Orochimaru opening the door and motioning Sasuke to enter, which he did without hesitation. "Do you wish to forget the pain?" Orochimaru asked with his eyes glinting. The goal he fought so hard to achieve was but a few minutes from his grasp. "Yes," Sasuke simply replied, and Orochimaru nodded. "Then do not fear or fight what is to come," Orochimaru said and opened his mouth to unhuman proportions. From Orochimaru's body came a gigantic white snake composed of smaller white snakes. This was Orochimaru's true form. "Orochimaru-sama?" Sasuke asked, slightly shaken from seeing this big snake slither out of Orochimaru's supposed body. "Do not fear me, child," Orochimaru said as he coiled himself around Sasuke's body, locking eyes with the young Uchiha. "Furofusher no Jutsu, eternal youth and immortality technique," Orochimaru said, and the world started changing. Sasuke and Orochimaru were no longer in the dark room, but they were in what seemed to be a vast place. The sky was dark purple, and looking down, the ground was nothing but a wall of pink muscles that seemed to spasm at random intervals. "What's this?" Sasuke asked fearfully. "With this I will accomplish my goal," Orochimaru said, chuckling darkly as the muscles began to crawl up Sasuke's body. Sasuke tried struggling, but he was overcome in just seconds. The muscles covered him completely, and Orochimaru smirked. After so many struggles and years of waiting, he had finally reached his goal. He had finally attained the Sharingan. "Who are you now?" Kabuto asked as he came into the room and noticed that Sasuke was standing frozen. On the ground was a gigantic white snake, and by the looks of it, it was obviously dead. Sasuke's Sharingan flared into existence and began spinning until it became the Manjikyu. Cuckoo. Who do you think? With Uchiha now had just returned from her appointed mission in Konoha. Her objective was to destroy the academy and kill every single student and teacher inside. All of that was to prove to Naruto that Tobi, or as she knew him, Uchiha Fugaku, that he was no prey. Now look down at the crater that hid the Uchiha clan's hideout. She jumped down, arriving near the skeleton, what once was a very large animal if the bones were anything to go by. "Where is he?" Now asked towards the plant-like creature that rose from the ground as she entered the hideout. "In the main hall," the white Zetsu replied. "Although he isn't pleased with you," the black Zetsu added. HN now replied as she ignored Zetsu and continued walking forward. "I'll deal with him now," said, and went towards Tobi's room. Now passed through several Uchihas a long way and simply gave them a brief nod of acknowledgement. She arrived at Tobi's room and knocked on the door. Now was about to reach for the handle when Tobi phased right through the door in her, making her jump back in surprise. Without even giving her a warning, Tobi placed a hand on her shoulder and warped her away with him as well. They both arrived at another destination. Tobi was the first to arrive and simply dropped now to the ground. "What's the meaning of this?" Now asked, gritting her teeth to her leader. Now looked around to pinpoint her location and noticed that she was near the border of the Land of Fire. More specifically, she was standing on the Valley of the End. Tobi jumped away and landed on the statue of Uchiha Madara. Now rose from the ground and noticed that she was standing on the statue of Senju Hashirama. She looked towards Tobi and noticed that he began to remove his mask and simply dropped it to the ground to reveal the face of Uchiha Fugaku. The Senju DNA in him did a good job, as he looked like he aged nothing in 17 years. "I'm disappointed with you," Naokan Fugaku replied as he sat down, as watched as now slightly tense before relaxing once again. "You were never one to fail missions to begin with, but I never expected for you to fail them on purpose," Fugaku said, sighing and looking up. "Care to explain why you decided to forget the mission?" Fugaku asked as he locked eyes with her. "I may be under your command, but I am not your tool to do as you please," now snarled at Fugaku. "You asked me to kill some innocent kids, which I would never do. I have my standards," now explained. "I see," Fugaku said, getting up. "I should have expected this from you. Your lineage was one of softness after all. Your sister did the same thing when I asked something similar," Fugaku explained, chuckling, and watched as now got confused. "You didn't know, did you?" Fugaku mockingly asked. "Your sister was just like you. You, your sister, Mikoto, and even that cousin of yours, Obito. You were all too soft and kind-hearted for the Uchiha clan. I thought that making an example of your sister would solve that in you, but I was mistaken," Fugaku simply explained, and watched as now tensed. "What do you mean by making an example of my older sister?" Now asked, narrowing her eyes at Fugaku. "Exactly like that. She was a soft-hearted like many before her, and she was influencing you, the strongest of the clan next to me. You looked up at her like anyone would do to their own older sister, and I couldn't have that, so I took steps. A simple poison in her food to make it look like she died of her eyes not accepting her body," Fugaku explained, smiling darkly. "What?" Now asked in shock. "You killed my sister just because she was kind," now mumbled to herself. "Why?" Now asked, although Fugaku had just given her the answer. "I want soldiers." "I don't need anything else but soldiers," Fugaku simply replied. "Your sister became a liability the moment she started refusing the missions I gave her because she couldn't do them, but I had hope for you, Naokan. You, who were so fond of my son Itachi. I hoped that you would outgrow that kindness that seemed to be instilled in your family and became what you were supposed to be, an Uchiha clan shinobi, Fugaku said and watched as lone tear ran down her face. You killed my sister, Now simply said looking at the ground. You killed the only thing I had left of my family, Now sadly said and suddenly looked up with her manjikyu blazing. I was a fool to be following you in the first place. I should have stayed by Konoha's side. The Uchiha clan was the strongest in Konoha. We were respected both for our power and loyalty, that is until you came around, Now began. You are nothing but a greedy man that led our great clan into nothingness, and eventually you will kill us all. Itachikin was right when he chose to stay by Konoha's side, Now said as her chakra flared and she took her sword from her waist. You are nothing more than darkness and I will be the light that shall defeat you, Now yelled as she pointed her sword towards Fugaku, who simply chuckled. Enter Naruto Shippuden. My name foolish girl, Fugaku said and watched as Now jumped from the statue, coming towards him. Now arrived near Fugaku and made a downward slice, only to phase right through him and hit the ground. Now quickly repositioned herself, dodging a punch from Fugaku and slashed across Fugaku's chest. Fugaku chuckled as he watched the blade phase through him. Once the blade left his chest, he simply caught the handle and outmaneuvering Now, he placed her on a chokehold. Such naive girl, Fugaku whispered into her ear as she struggled to get free. There is no darkness without light, Fugaku replied as he let go of Now, who stumbled forward to regain her breath. Now looked back and quickly brought her arms to block a powerful kick from Fugaku. Now was sent flying and collided with Hashirama's statue. A few rocks were set free from the impact and splashed into the water. Now coughed but quickly regained her breathing. She looked up to see Fugaku in the same place. Katan, Goryoka no Jutsu, Great Dragon Fire Technique, Now said as she sent a torrent of fire shaped in the form of a dragon towards her enemy. Kamui, Fugaku said chuckling as he absorbed the whole fire jutsu into his personal dimension. Katan, Bakufu Ranbu, Bomb Blast Dance, Fugaku said as he needed chakra inside his body and converted into fire. Using the fire jutsu he absorbed from Now, he expelled a continuous stream of flames, which spiraled outwards, creating a massive fire vortex. Now's eyes widened at the magnitude of the jutsu. Fugaku had used his own jutsu and further increased its power by using her jutsu. Now's eyes glowed and purple ribcage formed around her. The fire jutsu clashed with her Susanoo shield but didn't even scorch it. Susanoo wasn't her ultimate defense for nothing. Yasaka no Magatama, Yasaka beads, Now said as her Susanoo glowed and slightly increased in size. A couple arms sprouted from the ribcage and, as they spread apart, pieces of chakra floated in the air between them. Several dark purple beads were shot towards Fugaku at high speeds. When will she learn? Fugaku thought to himself in amusement as the gigantic beads collided with the statue, ripping out chunks of stone. Fugaku had simply used his Kamui to escape the attacks and jumped down into the water. Fugaku looked straight forward and narrowed his eyes when he noticed Now, who had her hands on the water. Suetun, water style, Now said as the lake started shaking and making Fugaku's eyes widen in disbelief. Sensudaraiki, 1,000 strikes, Now shouted as the lake all around her started giving off steam. Right before Fugaku's eyes, hundreds upon hundreds of water tentacles started forming out of the water. Now, who still held her hands on the lake, smirked as the tentacles blurred towards Fugaku, who began evasive maneuvers. Fugaku's was running for dear life. There were so many tentacles that they were even blocking his view of the statues. They were so many that they almost blot out the sun, leaving Fugaku to fight in the shadows. Fugaku ducked under a tentacle and used his Kamui to avoid another one. Katan, Ryuka no Jutsu, Fire Dragon Technique, Fugaku said and unleashed a torrent of fire against the water tentacles. He watched with great satisfaction as most of the water whips were vaporized. He quickly lost his smile when he noticed the whips simply reformed themselves from the water. I can't use my Kamui indefinitely and there are too many whips for me to track, Fugaku thought as he tried to think of a way to end this jutsu. Otherwise he would be forced to evaporate the whole lake, which would be impossible. He was shot from his thoughts when a water whip got past his defenses and hit him on the shoulder, making him stumble. Enough, Fugaku said, blurring through hand seals. Katan, Genkyu, Great Blaze Ball, Fugaku exhaled a gigantic sphere of scorching flames that vaporized and destroyed everything in its path. Everything around Fugaku was decimated and only steam remained. Fugaku looked in annoyance as every single water tentacle slowly reformed, but he caught a glimpse of Nao, who was still in the same position as she was when she began the jutsu. Fugaku quickly realized this jutsu's weakness. In order for it to work properly, the jutsu caster would need a large body of water nearby, but more importantly, this jutsu requires the caster to be stationary and feed chakra continuously so that any destroyed tentacle may be reformed. Fugaku smirked and quickly dashed towards Nao at high speeds. Several water tentacles tried to block his path but simply phased right through them until he was upon Nao. Fugaku arrived near Nao and immediately went for a straight punch, only for Nao to tilt her head to the side and jump away to safety. Fugaku watched as the water tentacles dispelled back into the river. That was one particularly annoying jutsu. To think you had water affinity as well. Just like Itachi. It looks like you were made for each other, Fugaku said in a mocking voice. While he was mocking his opponent, even he had to admire the potency and beauty of the jutsu. You think too high of Itachi-can. I kicked his ass several times during our shinobi career, Nao said, smirking as she had finally understood the timing on Fugaku's kamui. She knew very well that his Manjikyu jutsu was simply stronger than her own, but like everything else, his kamui had a weakness. And she found it when Fugaku chose to fight the water tentacles instead of simply standing by. Katan, Hozenka no Jutsu, Phoenix Fire Technique, Nao said as she released several fireballs towards Fugaku, who simply shook his head in defeat. Fugaku used his kamui and simply absorbed the jutsu into his dimension. Fugaku realized that the jutsu was taking longer to absorb than usual. She had shuriken among the fireballs to delay my absorption. Clever girl, Fugaku thought to himself as he noticed Nao reappear next to him in a blur of speed. Fugaku simply stopped absorbing the jutsu and allowed a few fireballs to hit him. Simple fireballs did nothing against him. Nao swinged her sword horizontally and watched in shock as Tobi easily caught her blade between two fingers. Fugaku used her shock and punched her on the gut, making her gasp. I expected more from you, Fugaku said as he picked Nao up from her neck and simply watched her struggle for air. Nao's eyes started glowing as she made her best efforts to look into Fugaku. Petrifying gaze, Nao said, catching Fugaku in her Manjikyu's strongest genjutsu. Fugaku was momentarily caught in the genjutsu, which allowed Nao to get free from his grasp. Nao jumped back as she nursed her neck and began taking deep breaths. Using the Manjikyu always took huge chunks of her chakra. Not bad, Fugaku said, chuckling as he easily broke the genjutsu. When will you realize that you can't win? Fugaku asked, looking straight at her. You should know better than to underestimate me, Nao snarled at her former leader. Nao took a single kunai and hurled it at the top of her speed towards Fugaku, who simply shook his head. He had expected more from her. Fugaku stoically waited for the kunai to reach and simply allowed it to phase right through his left eye. I win, Nao said, laughing weakly, and Fugaku raised an eyebrow in confusion. Fugaku suddenly yelled to the heavens and dropped to his knees. He quickly brought his hand to his face to try and stem the blood that was leaking from his left eye. Fugaku stared at the lake and into his own reflection, only to see a deep gash on his left eye. He couldn't even identify that it was an eye to begin with. Amaterasu, Nao said, taking advantage of Fugaku's shock as she enveloped him in a cloak of pitch-black flames. She watched with great competence as Fugaku rolled on the water in pain until he began to sink. I told you not to underestimate me, Nao said, smiling and taking deep breaths. She had won the battle with a simple henge and a shadow clone. Squelch, Nao gasped as her chest was suddenly pierced a kunai from behind. She looked down to see the tip of the kunai protruding right from her chest, just above her heart. She coughed a large amount of blood and shakily looked backwards. Fugaku was standing there with a pissed-off expression. His clothes and chunks of his skin were completely burned, but above all, his left eye was completely destroyed. Nao pushed forward, crying in pain as the blade left her chest. She stumbled forward and fell to her knees as blood started pooling on the water. I never expected for you to make a shadow clone and transform it into a shuriken that you used as a Trojan horse to get into my personal dimension, Fugaku said, gritting his teeth. I should have not underestimated you. You were my second in command after me, after all, Fugaku explained and watched as Nao took deep and ragged breaths. It was foolish of you to challenge me, Naya-kan, Fugaku said. He would make her pay. She had wounded him, but above all else, she had destroyed one of the things he held more precious. She had blinded him on his left eye. Fugaku raised an eyebrow when he felt a genjutsu wash over the area. He looked in confusion towards Nao and watched as she disappeared into thin air as if she never existed in the first place. Fugaku smirked and looked to his right just in time to see Nao materialized herself. The wound on her chest was completely gone but was replaced with a hollow white right eye. "So you sacrificed your right eye to survive yet again," Fugaku said, chuckling. "You lost your ability to use your genjutsu and your Susanoo. You are pathetically weak now, but if you want a battle, I shall give you one," Fugaku said as his chakra spiked and the ground started shaking. The huge lake they were standing on started vibrating as waves were created. "Mokuton, with style," Fugaku yelled as he clasped his hands together in the snake seal. "Jukai Koten, deep forest creation," Fugaku added as thousands upon thousands of trees suddenly burst from the water. Nao's eyes widened at the sheer magnitude of the jutsu. The trees rose from the water and high into the sky, they pierced the mountains, dislocating huge chunks of it. They wrapped themselves around the two statues, tearing them apart. Nao watched as the trees quickly approached her position and she knew she had to do something quickly. Nao held her sword horizontally in front of her chest. She placed her left hand on the hilt. "Katan, Heineken Katan, flaming sword," Nao said. She ran her hand over the blade and watched as her sword suddenly ignited into whitish flames. She avoided looking directly at the blade due to the light being emitted. Nao disappeared in a burst of speed. "Katan Kasai Sarashu, fire slash," Nao said as she flicked her blade forward. An arc of fire was released from her blade, cutting right through the incoming trees. Nao smirked as she landed on the tree and started running upwards it, heading right towards to Fugaku. Nao ducked and sliced her way towards the forest that had just grown. While the trees might be numerous and strong, they were no match against her heated blade that sliced them down like a hot knife through butter. "Mokuton, Sashiki no Jutsu, cutting sprigs," Fugaku said as several sharp wooden spikes grew from the trees. Fugaku picked up a couple and, with strength and precision, he hurled them all towards the incoming enemy. Nao flexed her fiery blade once again. "Katan, Shiro Senkai, whirling death," Nao said as she pointed her blade forward, towards the incoming projectiles. The blade's flames quickly grew in size. Nao flexed her blade and released a vortex of fire that vaporized the wooden spikes. Nao arrived near Fugaku and did a lightning-fast horizontal swipe just above his head. Fugaku ducked under her swing and watched as the blade left a trail of fire behind it. Fugaku jumped backwards and extended his right arm forward. "Mokuton, Daijirin no Jutsu, Great Forest," Fugaku said as his right arm suddenly transformed into wood. From his arms came out dozens of wooden tentacles that quickly wrapped themselves around Nao. Nao struggled to get free until she poofed in smoke to reveal single wooden log in her place. There was no shortage of wooden logs around, not since Fugaku was willingly creating them. "You are a coward, Fugaku. Fight me like an Uchiha instead of using power that belonged to Senju. Where is your pride?" Nao snarled at Fugaku as she blurred through hand seals. "Katan, Hayo Arakuru, raging fire," Nao said as she unleashed torrents upon torrents of fire that spread through the whole forest. All around her the fire was consuming the trees that Fugaku had created. The water in the lake did nothing to ease the raging inferno that Nao had set. Chunks of wood snapped from the trees and hit the lake with large splash sounds. Fugaku jumped away from the falling trees and landed on the nearby branches. He swiped his arm on his forehead to wipe the sweat away from the massive heat that Nao's inferno was creating. All around him steam was being released as the water evaporated. Fugaku looked around for Nao when he heard a whistling sound. He turned around just in time to avoid multiple blazing shurikens that came from his blind spot. As Fugaku was jumping backwards, Nao materialized right next to him. Fugaku allowed Nao's punch to phase right through him and hit the tree where he was standing. Fugaku moved to block another punch but quickly changing his mind and jumped back when he noticed that Nao's hands had an orange glow in them. Fugaku looked back towards the tree Nao hit and noticed the black spot from her punch. "This is my Kasai no Ken, Fire Fist," Nao said as her other arm and legs started getting an orange glow as several flames appeared around them. It looked like Nao had her arms and legs on fire, although she didn't seem to be in pain. "I will show you why I was considered the best in the clan in fire ninjutsu," Nao said as she dashed towards Fugaku, who braced himself. Such a waste of potential, Fugaku thought to himself, frowning. The girl held such power and potential even without the Sharingan, and yet he had to kill her for her incompetence and disrespect. He wasn't feeling any guilt or regret, just pity. "Hit him a fireball," now said, punching straight forward and unleashing a ball of fire directly towards Fugaku, who tilted his head to the side to avoid the flames. Now jumped in the air and spinned around. "Kasai no Nami, fire wave," now said as she released a wave of fire towards Fugaku, who simply allowed it to phase right through him. Now dashed forward and engaged Fugaku in clash of fists and kicks. Fugaku used his Kamui as much as he could to outmaneuver now. Every single strike that Fugaku blocked or parried, he would regret it, as he would get a piece of scorched skin as payment. Now slammed her foot on the ground and flexed her arms forward. Without even a single hand seal, fire sprouted from her palms heading straight towards Fugaku. "Mokuton, Mokujiiki, wooden wall," Fugaku said, slamming both hands on the ground. Several wooden pillars branched out from the trees and surrounded Fugaku, forming a dome around him. The fire wave clashed with the wooden walls. Fugaku activated his Kamui and sank into the ground. Now stopped her attack once she noticed that behind the wooden dome was no one. She looked around and focused on her senses. Fugaku immediately appeared behind her and proceeded to kick in the back. Now flew back and collided with one of trees that quickly wrapped itself around her, restraining her movements. "Katan, Kasai no Tate, fire shield," now said as all of her skin started glowing orange. Now started sweating as her hole erupted in flames, scorching the wood all around her and turning it nothing more than ashes. Now freed herself from the trees and fell to the ground, taking deep breaths. Her chakra stores were nearing empty and she wouldn't last much longer. "Unbelievable," Fugaku said, looking at now with shock. "To think you would be this talented. How did you even lose against the Hyuga girl back in Kiri?" Fugaku asked, curious. The amount of control she held of the fire was astonishing. "That battle opened my eyes. I relied on my Sharingan too much back then, and my defeat only proved that. I thought myself to be undefeatable and I got a rude wake-up call, but I get the feeling that even with this I wouldn't be able to defeat her should we ever meet again," now said, smirking as she looked towards her flaming arms. "My last jutsu," now thought to herself sadly, she was running on fumes. Amaterasu now said, looking towards his arms as they erupted in black flames. Her Sharingan deactivated from lack of chakra. Fugaku's eyes widened in disbelief when he saw now ignite her own arms in the black flames of Amaterasu. She's using the fire on her arms as the target for the Amaterasu flames. As long as she holds her jutsu, the black flames won't burn her, Fugaku thought to himself. Now was really putting everything she could into the fight. "Come," now said as she waited for Fugaku to make his move. She knew that Fugaku would try and avoid engaging in taijutsu as off no. Fugaku might many things, but fool wasn't in his description. "If you won't, then I will," now said as she rushed Fugaku head on, intending to go out with a bang. Now tried a punch to Fugaku's jaw only for it to phase through him. Fugaku watched as her Amaterasu empowered arm phased right through him. Once now's arm had left him, Fugaku brought his knee to her stomach. Now buckled forward and gasped in pain. Now bit back the pain and engaged Fugaku once again in taijutsu. Blow after blow was getting past now's defenses and hitting her. Fugaku tilted his body back and slammed his foot as hard as he could into Nao's chest and watched as she tumbled through the trees. Fugaku smirked as the battle was over. He calmly walked towards Nao as she knelt and took deep breaths. Her hair covered most of her face, sweat was pouring freely from her forehead, and her clothes were completely burned from her fire jutsus. Fugaku looked towards her arms and watched as the Amaterasu flames faded away. Now watched as Fugaku bent down and picked up her sword. There was nothing she could do about it. She had ran out of chakra, she was tired. All she wanted right now was to die and simply be reunited with her sister and family in the other side. Now didn't even wince as Fugaku slowly drove her sword through her chest and heart. Fugaku rose up and brought Nao with him as she stood pierced in the sword like some piece of meat in a wooden stick. Fugaku was completely affronted with her. Even in defeat and death, Nao was smiling. "I hope you keep that smile of yours when you met the rest of your family," Fugaku said, and simply flexed the blade, letting Nao's body fall to the water. Fugaku didn't waste more time and simply swirled away. He had a Sharingan to replace. Nao was slowly drifting away in the water. She was floating and looking at the beautiful blue sky. She was barely alive at this point, but she couldn't help but get a strange feeling that suddenly overcame her. She wanted nothing more than to be reunited with her family, but somehow, she felt that it wasn't her time go yet. Izanagi now thought to herself, using the remains of her chakra and the last of her eye. The wound on her chest healed and her eyes closed from chakra exhaustion. She slowly drifted away, carried away by the current. She didn't know if she would even survive, but she felt she had to try. Chapter 50, Two New Lights. Previously, Izanagi now thought to herself, using the remains of her chakra and the last of her eyes. The wound on her chest healed and her eyes closed from chakra exhaustion. She slowly drifted away, carried away by the current. She didn't know if she would even survive, but she felt she had to try. Moments earlier, Itachi was hoping from tree branch. He was returning from Konoha due to his talk with Naruto a couple days ago. Itachi was invisible, concealed by the shadows of the night. With his body healed and back to perfect condition, he could use his full speed. Itachi placed a foot on a tree branch and launched himself forward at the top of his speed. He narrowed his eyes to block the air from drying up his eyes. He looked right only to spot a massive column of black smoke rising on the horizon. Since he had time, Itachi decided to investigate. It was night, and a fire in the middle of the night would definitely stick out, especially one of this magnitude. Valley of the End, what the hell happened here? Itachi mumbled to himself in disbelief. The valley was completely ruined. The two statues of both Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara were now nothing more than broken rock on the ground. But what caught Itachi's attention was the massive forest that stood blazing in the middle of the valley. Gigantic trees, big as the statues themselves, were burning with white-hot flames. Chunks of trees snapped, hitting the water with large splash sounds. Itachi's activated his Sharingan only to see chakra residue in the air. There was a battle here, and it wasn't long ago. Itachi jumped down from the valley and into the water, keeping his distance from the fire raging on. Smack! Itachi kicked something accidentally and looked down. An orange mask with a swirl pattern revolving around the right eye socket. Tobi's mask, Itachi stated to himself as he bent down and picked the mask, surveying his surroundings for the possibility of finding the masked man's identity. Itachi kept walking forward, analyzing the state of the valley. It had to have been a great battle for the valley to be left in such state. He looked down at the river and noticed a small trail of blood flowing downwards with the river. Anyone else would miss it as it was so small, but not the Sharingan. Itachi hopped into the water and began walking down the river, following the current and the blood's trail. Itachi walked a few miles until he arrived near a small clearing where the river's flow had decreased significantly. Itachi looked around until his eyes landed on a body lying down by the shore. Itachi walked towards the body. Just from the distance he could tell that this person would most likely be dead. The clothes were completely torn, he could see burn marks on her arms and legs, and bleeding cuts all over the remaining of the body. As Itachi was closing in, he took time to note her clothes. The body had an attire consisting of a dark blue top with black gloves, black boots, black shorts, but what really caught his eyes was the Uchiha clan symbol on her back. /N, check profile for image and Uchiha? Itachi asked to himself in disbelief as he suddenly rushed the body. He arrived near the body and bent down, placing 2 fingers on her neck. She's alive, Itachi thought as he detected a very faint pulse. He gently turned her around and his eyes widened at the person lying down right in front of him. Now Itachi breathed out. Naruto had told him that the Uchiha clan was still alive, but it was one hell of a coincidence for him to simply stumble upon one Uchiha just days after his talk with Naruto. Itachi moved her body further into the land and laid her on the ground, facing up. Itachi placed his fingers on the middle of her chest, right above her heart, and released a small electric discharge. It was a technique taught to every single shinobi in the Corps and one of the basic medical ninjutsu. A small static shock directly into the heart to jump-start a body if need be. Nao's body gave a small jerk as she started stirring. Itachi watched as Nao slowly opened his eyes only for a hollow white to appear instead of the black color he remembered. Did she sacrifice her eyes? Itachi mused in thought as he heard some gurgling sound coming from Nao. Who Nao said as she started coughing. Are you? now managed to get out only to hear a small chuckle. "What mess did you get yourself into this time?" Nyakan Itachi replied, smiling down at his former comrade. There was quite a story behind these two. Nao's eyes widened when she recognized the voice. She slowly turned towards the voice but saw nothing but darkness. Itachi now said, slowly chuckling until she began coughing again. Itachi moved now so that she laid perfectly flat on the ground. "Don't worry, I will take care of you," Itachi said, smiling, not that Nao could see it. Itachi went towards his pocket and removed a single three-pronged kunai. Without a moment hesitation, he stabbed it on the ground, disappearing in a yellow flash with Nao in tow. Moments earlier, Senju compound, "I finally did it," Naruto yelled in joy of success. Naruto quickly sealed everything and swirled towards the Senju compound. Hinata, Hashirama, Tobirama, Mito, Minato, Kushina, and Gaara. "All of you in the kitchen in 5 minutes," Naruto yelled as he also ran towards the kitchen to set up everything. One by one everyone walked towards the kitchen, although it weren't just the ones Naruto called, as everyone was curious what the ruckus was all about. "Dragons," Naruto said, getting the attention of his group. Front and center, Naruto said and watched as the members of the group stepped forward. "I have a gift for all of you," Naruto said, grinning as he took out 8 scrolls and tossed one to each member of the group, keeping one for himself. "What's this?" Minato asked, curious about this gift. "Unseal it and you shall see," Naruto replied, and Minato shrugged. Minato kneeled on the ground and unwrapped his scroll. "Kai, release," Minato said as he slammed his hand on the scroll. Once the cloud of smoke had dissipated, on the ground laid a single egg. Although this wasn't some ordinary chicken egg. This egg shell was completely white and it was slightly bigger than a football. "At least the omelet will be enough for all of us," Jiraiya joked, and everyone laughed until he saw the look of horror in Naruto. "You gave us a big egg," Minato said, disgruntled. He was hoping for something a bit more, more for such a big fuss. "While it is an egg, it's so much more than that," Naruto cryptically said and watched as Minato glared at him. "Just channel chakra into the egg and think of yellow. It will take a considerable amount, so don't worry," Naruto explained, and Minato did just that. Minato placed his right hand on top of the egg and concentrated. Minato's hand started glowing blue and everyone watched with anticipation what would come from all of this. 5 minutes later and Minato was already starting to sweat from all the chakra the damn thing was eating. Suddenly the egg stopped absorbing chakra and Minato retracted his hand, wiping the sweat from his forehead. "Now what?" Minato asked towards Naruto. He did as Naruto said, but nothing was happening. "Give it a few moments," Naruto said, and Minato nodded, sitting down. How could such small thing almost empty him of his reserves? He had a lot of chakra, not much as Naruto but enough to put some Kages to shame. As Minato raised his head from being tired of waiting, the egg started shaking, breaking everyone from their boredom. Everyone watched as the egg started shaking even more and clawing sounds could be heard coming from inside the egg. A strange yellow pattern started forming around the egg shell, making everyone focus all their attention of said egg. "Here he comes," Naruto said, and everyone's breathing hitched as a piece of the egg shell flew away and what seemed to be in yellow claw stepped out. The egg shook once more and suddenly exploded, sending pieces of his shell flying everywhere. Everyone covered their face so they didn't get hit with the shrapnel. Once they uncovered their faces, everyone's jaw dropped at the creature standing in the middle of the kitchen. He resembled some form of reptile, like lizards and, in some relation, snakes themselves. This creature's body was completely covered in yellowish shiny scales, with 4 legs and long tail. The creature had a long snout and an impressive jawline filled with razor-sharp teeth. He had eyes yellow as well, with a black vertical slit like those of snake, but what really stood out was a pair of wings that protruded from his back. "Is that what I think it is?" Jiraiya yelled, pointing towards the creature in the middle of the room, who seemed to react to his outburst and gave him a toothy grin showing his razor-sharp teeth and an impressive pair of fangs. "A dragon. Alive and in the flesh," Naruto said, pointing towards the dragon, who seemed to get what was happening and simply rose to stand on 2 legs and spread his wings. "And is your partner from now and until the day you die," Naruto said, pointing towards Minato, who had a shocked face. But Minato tried to argue, but Naruto quickly shut him down. "No buts. He is key to your chakra and will only answer to you. He isn't your slave or pet, he's your partner from now on, so treat him with respect, Naruto said, and the dragon jumped into the air and landed on Minato's shoulders. He coiled around his neck until he began to lick Minato's cheek. I guess he's alright, Minato said, scratching the head of the dragon and making Naruto nod. His name is Yellow. A fitting name for the mighty Kiroi Senko, Yellow Flash, wouldn't you say? Naruto snickered and watched as the dragon growled slowly before laying his head down to probably sleep. I thought that dragons didn't exist, Temari stated, looking at Yellow. They do now. They will take time to grow, Naruto explained. How big will they get? Tsunade asked, palling when she remembered the legends. Big as the bijou, Naruto simply replied as he crouched and unsealed his own egg. Everyone paled at the thought of having 8 dragons, the size of mountains, just simply strolling around Konoha. They were broken from their thoughts when they heard another egg crack, and they turned around to see Hinata scratching the chin of a purple dragon. Growl. Tsunade turned her head again, this time towards Naruto, who was also petting a big silver dragon. Tsunade and the rest of the Senju compound, with the exception of the 8 dragons of the leaf, paled when they had cracks all over the place. Not even 5 minutes later there were 8 dragons on the kitchen running all over the place, like some kids on a sugar rush. Oh man, I want one too, Kankuro said as he kneeled in front of Naruto. No can do. Limited edition only, Naruto chuckled. Please see, Kankuro whined. Please see, Silver mocked from the ceiling. Everyone looked up to see Silver with his claws dug onto the ceiling. Oh, mine can already talk, Naruto said with sparkles on his eyes. And it looks like he got your traits, personality-wise, Hinata said as she watched the Silver mock poor Kankuro. Things you should know about your partners. They have chakra just like you and they bear the same affinities you have, so they can work properly with you in combat, Naruto explained, and everyone nodded. Another thing. Should any of them die you will live on, but if you die, so will your dragons, Naruto said in a serious voice. The dragon were their partners and were bounded to them by life. Where the hell are they going to live? Tsunade yelled, making everyone stare at her. The Senjiness is strong in that one, Mito thought to herself, sighing. Do you think we can set them up in the summon world? Tobirama asked, making everyone ponder. Hey Fox, Naruto thought to himself. Yeah, Kurama replied as he yawned and stretched, popping a few joints. Is the summon realm all occupied? Naruto asked, making Kurama raise an eyebrow at his question. Why do you ask? Kurama asked, surprised by the question. Naruto simply looked to the ceiling. What the hell are dragons doing here? Kurama yelled. I created them. I read a book about reptiles and another one from Legends, Naruto replied, grinning and making Kurama shake his head his disbelief. There are a few lands unoccupied that they can use without much trouble, Kurama answered, and Naruto proceeded to forward the information to Tobirama, who was already devising a small seal in the form of a tattoo to summon their partners into battle should they need them. We got company, Naruto said as he backflipped into the middle of the room and slammed his hand on the ground. In a flash of yellow, Itachi and now were standing in the middle of the room. I thought you were supposed to come to me, Itachi said as he found himself on the Senju compound. I may trust you, Itachi, but not far enough to jump towards you and into a possible ambush, Naruto replied. What the? Itachi said out loud when he came face to face with 8 dragons who were standing just inches away from his face, staring at him. His Sharingan flared to life, and that was until he noticed the rest of the room. Senju Hashirama, Senju Tobirama, Namikaze Minato, Uzumaki Mito, and Senju Kushina. Bibu Itachi tried to come out with the right words, but his brain seemed unable to process the events. At least he didn't faint like Tsunade and Hiruzen had to back in the day. What can I do for you, Itachi? Naruto asked, breaking Itachi's line of thought. Itachi looked away from the Senju brothers and back into Nao, who was breathing harshly. She won't last much longer. I can feel her life force slipping away, Naruto said as he took a good look at the Uchiha in Itachi's arms. I need your help once again. I need you to heal her, Itachi stoically said. Bah! A dead Uchiha is a good one, Tobirama simply replied, making Itachi frown. What did I tell you about having prejudice about the Uchihas? Hashirama grumbled. Besides, it's Naruto's choice if he wants to heal her or not, Hashirama explained, and Tobirama scoffed but nodded nonetheless. Why should I heal her? Naruto asked towards Itachi, who remained silent and with his head down. She has been working for Tobi all along. She blew up a hospital in Kiri and almost killed Hinata, Naruto explained. She is in this state for fighting Tobi. You should see the state of the Valley of the End, everything was destroyed, even Madara's and his statue, Itachi said, motioning to Hashirama. They destroyed my gorgeous statue, Hashirama said as he hung his head. What do you think, Kurama? Naruto asked towards his partner. It's your choice, Naruto, Kurama replied seriously, wondering what Naruto would do. Even so. One good deed doesn't at all for a lifetime of wrongs, Naruto said. Don't make me beg, Itachi said in a low voice, making Naruto's eyes widen. He was willing to actually beg for Naruto to save her. Why would you lower yourself to that extent just to save her? Naruto asked, curious, but Itachi remained silent. You love her. After all this time? Naruto asked like it was the most obvious thing on the world, and Itachi just nodded. Always, Itachi answered. 1. She was with me from the very beginning. We were born a single month apart. We were childhood friends and rivals at the same time. We graduated from the academy together, got into the same team, took the Chunin exams together. I fell for her because she treated me for the person I was. To her, I wasn't the son of the head of the Uchiha clan or the prodigy of the Uchiha clan. To her I was just Itachi, Itachi sadly said, and Naruto remained silent. I guess we are more alike than I thought, Naruto replied, chuckling and making Itachi look at him funny. I too fell for Hinata because she was with me from the beginning, and because not matter what the village said, she never treated me as the demon or Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. To her I always was just Naruto. Besides, there was nothing I wouldn't do for her, Naruto explained and started walking forward until he was near Itachi, who held Nao's head on his lap. Naruto placed 2 fingers on Nao's forehead. Naruto took a deep breath and opened his eyes to display his silver eyes with concentric rings around the pupil. Naruto's fingers started glowing and Itachi watched as Nao's breathing became more stable. Her bones were reset to their proper locations and even the cuts on her skin just sizzled away. Naruto got up and stepped back as Nao started stirring. Itachi-kun, I'm feeling much better. Where are we? Nao asked as she slowly rose to a sitting position. Itachi-kun, is it? Naruto thought to himself, chuckling. He knew deep down that he had made the right choice. He's almost ready to meet him, Kurama chuckled to himself before going back to sleep. We are in Konoha, more specifically in the Senju compound, Itachi replied and watched as Nao suddenly stiffened and jumped to her feet. She opened her eyes but only darkness greeted her. What happened to your eyes? Hinata asked, curious about the hollow white. I know that voice, Nao said, looking towards Hinata direction. You are that Hyuga I fought in Kiri, Nao said, getting into a defensive stance. She was in enemy territory. It's Senju Nao. Naruto-kun has asked me to marry him, Hinata said, but Nao didn't seem much concerned about that. Relax, Naya-kan, Itachi said, placing a hand on her shoulder and making her instantly relax. You are among friends now, Itachi said, and Nao huffed. Hold still, Naruto said towards Nao as he approached her and put a finger in each eye, above her eyelid. Relax, Naruto said, but Nao remained stiff as a board. Is he going to take my eyes? Nao thought, fearful. She was in the wolf's den and blind to make it worse. Naraka path, Naruto said, and Nao was shocked when she heard Naruto say the exactly same words that Nagato had used to heal her eye when she fought Hinata back in Kiri. Open your eyes, Naruto said, and Nao slowly complied. Her eyes lid slowly rose and she was greeted with the face of Senju Naruto, but his eyes were not the Sharingan, they were the Rinnegan, glowing at full power. You have the Rinnegan, Nao muttered out loud. No thank you, no nothing, just you have the Rinnegan. I'm hurt, Naruto joked, making Nao smile slightly, easing the ambient. That's Naruto right there. All serious 1 second and joking around the next, Kushina thought, smiling. Of course, Nao said, slapping her forehead. You are both Uchiha and Senju. It's obvious that you would have the Rinnegan. I wonder how Fugaku still hasn't thought of that yet, Nao muttered out loud. So it's true, Itachi sadly replied and making Nao turn around. Everyone is still alive? Itachi asked and Nao nodded. Who is Tobi? Naruto asked, turning Nao around to look at him. now gulped as she stared at Naruto's Sharingan and knew that lying probably would be a bad idea. Uchiha Fugaku now replied, squirming under Naruto's gaze. Wasn't he the head of the Uchiha clan? Naruto asked and everyone nodded. Another simple Uchiha with delusions of grandeur, Tobirama grumbled. I knew I recognized his chakra from somewhere when he attacked with the Kyuubi 17 years ago, Minato replied, and for the first time now looked around to see just who exactly was with her. Yondaima-sama now said in shock and gulped when she saw who stood by his side. Senju Hashirama and his brother Senju Tobirama, Uzumaki Mido and Senju Kushina. How? Now asked towards Naruto, who smirked. You should know the power of the Rinnegan extends beyond life and death, Naruto simply replied. Of course, now said, smacking her head again, you are the perfect vessel for the Rinnegan. The Uchiha and Senju DNA in perfect balance. It figures that you could use it without any adversities, unlike Nagato now said. Now but why don't you tell us everything you know about the Uchiha clan and the Akatsuki? Naruto asked, and yet again now felt that it wasn't a question she could refuse. 1 hour later, that's very useful information. Thank you now, Naruto replied and now nodded before turning towards Itachi. What now? Now asked, and Itachi looked at Naruto. Now turned around to look towards Naruto as well. Smack! Itachi gave now a chop to the neck, making her fall forward. Itachi caught her before she fell and slowly lowered her to the ground. The hell, Itachi? Naruto asked as he watched him knock now unconscious. I'm going after my brother. Can you make me a promise? Itachi asked, looking at Naruto and making sure he understood the seriousness in his voice. If I don't make it back. Itachi trailed off as Naruto understood what he meant. We will take care of her like family. You have my word, Itachi, Naruto replied, and Itachi nodded before shining away, heading towards the Uchiha hideout where he would meet with Sasuke and decided his fate. So he was Itachi, Tobirama said, scratching his chin. I guess he wasn't so bad for an Uchiha, Tobirama replied, making everyone sweat drop. Was Uchihas all that he thought about? Ero-sennin, you know what to do? Naruto asked and Jiraiya nodded. I will contact my spies, Jiraiya replied, and everyone went back towards their dragons. Few days later, Uchiha hideout. If you wish to kill me, resent me, hate me, and survive in obscurity, Sasuke remembered as he approached the Uchiha hideout where Zetsu had told him Itachi was. Run. Keep running and cling to life. Then one day, come before me with the same eyes I possess, Sasuke thought as his Manjikyu flared and he continued his path. So you have come, Itachi said with his eyes closed. Itachi was sitting in some kind of throne and was looking straight towards Sasuke, who stood in his front. Sasuke was wearing the traditional Uchiha clan outfit, dark blue vest with black pants. He had a blue belt in which he had a straight single-edged sword strapped into. On the back of his vest he bore the Uchiha fan. That Sharingan, Itachi said as he started to open his eyes. How much can you see? Itachi asked as his eyes fully opened to reveal blood-red eyes with 3 black tomos. How much I can see, you ask? Sasuke rhetorically asked as he stopped walking, facing Itachi. With these eyes I see your death, Itachi, Sasuke replied, looking Itachi dead in the eyes. My death, huh? Itachi asked out loud. You are still arrogant, Sasuke. You shouldn't underestimate your opponent, Itachi advised as he leaned back, closing his eyes. Then make it happen, Itachi said as he disappeared and, in a blur, he was beside Sasuke with a kunai drawn. Sasuke followed his movement with his Sharingan and quickly turned. Sasuke placed a hand on his sword handle and brought his blade to parry Itachi's kunai. Both weapons clashed with a clang sound as both fighters struggled for victory. Sasuke broke the struggle and jumped back, going through hand seals. Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu, great fireball technique, Sasuke said as he unleashed a massive fireball lighting up the room. Itachi bent slightly as he pulled several shuriken from his sleeves and hurled them towards Sasuke, through the fireball. Itachi jumped to the side to avoid it. Sasuke was forced to cancel his jutsu when several shuriken came towards him. The fireball had obscured the vision of them. Sasuke's Sharingan glowed as he tracked every single shuriken and started blocking them with his sword. Not a single movement was wasted, it was like he was dancing. When Sasuke had finished dodging every single shuriken, Itachi was suddenly upon his face and kicked him in the stomach, sending Sasuke flying into the wall. Sasuke crashed into the wall and stumbled to the ground as he began coughing. Sasuke rose his head to look for Itachi only for him to be punched and pinned into the wall by the same person he was looking for. "This is the end," Itachi said as he brought his fingers towards Sasuke's eyes. "Your light is mine," Itachi said as ripped out one of Sasuke's eyes, making him yell in pain and clutch to his now empty eye socket. The curse seal on Sasuke's shoulder began activating, his body gained a brownish color and some kind of wings sprouted from his back. Suddenly the whole world started cracking, like some mirror that had just been broken. All the damage to the room simply disappeared as both Sasuke and Itachi were standing in the same position as before it all began. "It useless," Itachi Sasuke said laughing. "I am not a little kid anymore. My eyes can easily see through your genjutsu," Sasuke stated as his Sharingan glowed. "You really are confident," Itachi said getting up from his throne. "But for now I will take your word for it," Itachi said until he looked towards Sasuke's Sharingan. "Foolish little brother, I told to come to me only when you had gained eyes like mine," Itachi replied walking down the stairs until he stood but a few feet away from Sasuke. "And I do," Sasuke said chuckling darkly as his Sharingan started spinning. "I killed the only person I ever cared for just for these eyes, Itachi, and, with them, I will kill you for betraying our family," Sasuke said as his Sharingan turned into his Manjikyu. His eyes had 3 intersecting ellipses that resemble an atom model. "Foolish little brother," Itachi said as his own Sharingan started spinning and becoming his Manjikyu Sharingan, a 3-sided pinwheel. The problem was that Itachi's eyes didn't stop spinning, even after reaching the Manjikyu stage. Itachi's Manjikyu kept spinning and Sasuke watched in horror as his brother's eyes started changing into an unknown pattern. With one large chakra pulse, Itachi's eyes stopped spinning and Sasuke was gawking at the new pattern. Itachi's Sharingan had 3 intersecting ellipses and above that, a 3-sided pinwheel. It was like a crossmatch between Sasuke's and Itachi's own Manjikyu. /N, Itachi's Eternal is Sasuke's from canon, how? Sasuke asked fearfully as he involuntarily took a step back. "How can you have the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan?" Sasuke asked shakily. "How you ask?" Itachi rhetorically asked sighing. "It was a gift. From Naruto," Itachi simply replied, making Sasuke's eyes widen in disbelief. "You swapped eyes with him?" Sasuke asked in shock. "It doesn't matter what I did, Sasuke. I'm righting my wrongs as of now," Itachi as his Eternal started glowing. "Kokakuku.do you mind if I join the party?" Both Sasuke and Itachi were surprised by this new voice as neither of them felt another chakra signature nearby. Both of them turned to the location of the new voice only to find Orochimaru of all people, leaning by the doorframe and hungrily looking at both Uchihas. "Sharingan," Sasuke said as he and Itachi took notice of Orochimaru's eyes. They were blood red with 3 black tomos spinning around the pupil. "How do you have the Sharingan?" Sasuke asked, gritting his teeth, but was met with mocking laughter. "Answer me, snake," Sasuke yelled, but Orochimaru only chuckled. "Amaterasu," Sasuke said as Orochimaru exploded in black flames. Still with the hot temper, I see Sasuke heard and turned around to see another Orochimaru sitting in the throne. Sasuke looked back to the black flames only to find nothing but mud on the ground. "What is it you came for, Orochimaru?" Itachi stoically asked. He didn't care how Orochimaru got the Sharingan as long as he didn't interfere with his plans. "Nothing much," Orochimaru said as he began walking towards both Uchihas, licking his lips in anticipation. "I've come for my new light," Orochimaru chuckled until he took notice to Itachi's new eyes. "Oh, you already have it," Orochimaru said, surprised by Itachi be wielding the Eternal. "Enough," Sasuke roared, making Itachi and Orochimaru turn towards him. "I will kill you both for disrespecting the Uchiha clan," Sasuke snarled as his began going through hand seals. "Katan, Goryoka no Jutsu, Great Dragon Fire Technique," Sasuke said, and he unleashed several dragon-shaped fireballs towards their enemies. Orochimaru's eyes started spinning as he copied the jutsu and easily countered Sasuke with an equally powerful jutsu. "So this is the Sharingan. Amazing," Orochimaru chuckled to himself when he felt the Sharingan automatically copy the jutsu. Orochimaru made a single tiger seal and looked straight towards Sasuke. "Juinjutsu, Cursed Seal Techniques, activate," Orochimaru said, and Sasuke was immediately on the ground screaming in pain and clutching to his neck. Sasuke Itachi said as he suddenly dashed towards Orochimaru, who smirked and waited for him. Orochimaru easily predicted Itachi's punch and tilted his head to the side, catching Itachi in an armlock. A snake appeared behind Orochimaru and quickly bit on Itachi's neck. Itachi dispersed in a murder of crows. The crows started circling Orochimaru as they turned into shurikens, heading straight for Orochimaru from all directions. Orochimaru jumped high into the air, attaching himself to the ceiling. In a flash, Sasuke was upon Orochimaru with his hand sparkling. Chidori! Sasuke yelled as he thrust his hand forward. Sasuke's hand went right through Orochimaru's heart, only for him to dispel into several snakes who fell to the ground. Tsk! Sasuke scoffed as he looked down to find Orochimaru's and Itachi's location. Amaterasu! Orochimaru said as black flames appeared in the ground in front of him. Futande Tapa, great breakthrough, Orochimaru said, pumping his lungs with chakra and releasing a gust of wind that carried the black flames across the room. Orochimaru launched his jutsu and waited for the results. However, he didn't need to wait much as two colors rose in the background. Both Sasuke and Itachi were using their own Susanoo to block the black flames. Sasuke's Susanoo was deep purple and wielded a bow and arrow. Itachi's Susanoo was strong orange, wielding a shield and a saber. He has the Manjikyu as well, both Sasuke and Itachi thought. Yasaka no Magatama, Yasaka beads, Itachi said as another pair of arms sprouted from his Susanoo and began preparing ethereal orange beads to throw. Sasuke's Susanoo formed an arrow. Both attacks were launched at incredible speed towards Orochimaru, who jumped into the ceiling, breaking the stone and escaping the room. The room exploded as the attacks collided with the walls. Both Susanoos dropped as Itachi and Sasuke jumped outside of the room, following Orochimaru. As Itachi and Sasuke appeared on the roof, Orochimaru flexed his arms forwards as snakes came from his sleeves and easily entangled both brothers. Itachi dispelled into a murder of crows and Sasuke summoned his Susanoo to break free. You've grown strong, Sasuke, Itachi said, looking at his brother, who scoffed and simply jumped to the side as the tree warriors stood equal lengths from each other. Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu, great fireball technique, all three warriors said at the same time. Tree fireballs clashed in the middle as all three shinobi struggled for the upper hand. Sasuke closed his right in concentration before opening it and unleashing black flames to consume the existing fire. As the black flames disappeared, Sasuke's hand sparkled as he slammed it on the ground. Chidori Nagashi, Sasuke said, a streak of lightning left in his hand heading towards Itachi and Orochimaru. Both warriors jumped back to gain some distance from Sasuke, who smirked. Sasuke looked up towards the sky and began laughing as thunders could be heard and heavy rain started falling. The heated air from all the fire jutsus and black flames had created a storm. The gathering of clouds had brought what Sasuke wanted, lightning. Sasuke's hand sparkled as he sent a lightning beam towards the sky, making light up the clearing. This is bad, Orochimaru said to himself as he knew very well what was coming. So he managed to recreate Naruto's Kirin Jutsu, Itachi thought to himself as his eyes started glowing and preparing for summoning his shield. Right on, Kirin, Sasuke yelled as he brought his hand down and the skies roared. A blue dragon appeared in the sky. The dragon rocketed towards the ground, targeting either Itachi or Orochimaru or even both. Kochios, Sunju Rashoman, Orochimaru said, slamming both hands on the ground as three massive defensive walls appeared in front of him to block Sasuke's jutsu. Susanoo, Itachi said as the dragon connected with the top of the building and, in a flash of blue, the building exploded, blasting chunks of rock everywhere and leveling the battlegrounds to nothing but rubble. As the smoke started clearing, Sasuke jumped down to ground level, taking deep breaths due to chakra usage. Sasuke scowled as he took notice that Itachi had summoned his Susanoo to defend himself, rendering his lightning jutsu useless. You damn brat, Orochimaru snarled as he dug himself out of the rubble. The walls he had summoned were enough to protect him from the initial blast but not from the secondary explosion. Orochimaru's clothes were ripped apart and he was bleeding from several places. I see you managed to copy my jutsu. After all three warriors standing on the clearing slowly turned their heads when they heard this new voice. The new person had long blonde, waist-length, spiky hair with fangs that framed his face and partially covered his right eye. He also had three distinctive whiskers marks on each cheek. His blonde hair swayed with the wind, giving him a more menacing look. Just great. The QB is here, Orochimaru thought to himself, gritting his teeth. He had come for Sasuke's or Itachi's eyes, but he had never expected for Sasuke to have grown this much, and now Naruto had joined the picture. Long time no see, Naruto. Sasuke chuckled and Naruto took in the person who had addressed him. Blood red eyes, check. Arrogant and general aura of superiority, check. Duck butt shaped hair, check. Emo and brooding, check. That's Sasuke alright, Naruto thought to himself, analyzing Sasuke. Naruto's Sharingan left nothing unchecked. Medium strength, Naruto concluded from his observations. Sasuke had grown stronger than he had expected. Care to explain to me why you knocked me out? Now asked sweetly towards Itachi, who gulped as he dropped his Susanoo. What the hell are you doing with the Senju, now? Sasuke asked towards now. Fugaku tried to kill me, so I joined their side now, said, pointing towards Itachi and Naruto. Zetsu. Naruto called out of nowhere and got confused faces from everyone, that is, until Zetsu showed up. You called Naruto-sama? The white Zetsu asked as he rose from the ground, besides Naruto. Everyone's jaw dropped when they heard the way Zetsu had addressed Naruto of all people. You are to tell nothing to Fugaku of what occurred in here, or we understood? Naruto asked and Zetsu nodded. Of you go then, Naruto said, and Zetsu sank back into the ground. Naruto. Itachi called out, getting his attention. What is she doing here? You gave me your word, Itachi said, narrowing his eyes. I promised that I would take care of her, not that I would stop her from chasing you, Naruto said, shrugging his shoulders, making Itachi's eyes twitch. Both of you leave. This is my problem to solve, Itachi replied as his Susanoo flared to life once again, making Sasuke and Orochimaru prepare themselves. It's my problem too. I made the wrong choice back then and I intend to fix it right now alongside you now. Haftas walked and stood side by side with Itachi. Shall we do this like the old days? Now asked, smirking and making Itachi chuckle. Itachi is laughing, Sasuke thought in disbelief as he looked towards his older brother. Back in the day, a simple smile was the best he could get from him. Itachi dropped his Susanoo as his eyes reverted back to the standard Sharingan. Now grinned as she stood side by side with Itachi, just like the old days. Both Uchihas had their normal Sharingan blazing at full power and looking towards Sasuke and Orochimaru. Like the old days? Itachi asked, turning to Nao, who grinned. Like the old days, Nao replied, nodding her head as both Uchihas disappeared from view. I guess I'll stick around and watch, Naruto muttered to himself as he jumped to safety and simply observed the battle from afar. Orochimaru shed his skin to heal any damage he had suffered from Sasuke's Raiten Jutsu. He looked around as his Sharingan tracked both Itachi and Nao, but, even then, they were nothing but blurs. He had yet to grow accustomed to his eyes. That was the reason as to why he could only use the Amaterasu flames as of now. Orochimaru's eyes shifted to his left as he looked towards Naruto, who was calmly sighting on the nearby walls, observing with battle with calculating eyes. Orochimaru heard Naruto say he would only watch, but shinobi aren't known for their honor. Orochimaru blinked as Nao appeared right next him. Masai no Ken, Fire Punch, now cocked her fist back and slammed it into Orochimaru's stomach. He buckled in pain just as Nao kicked him away, sending him sailing through the air. Katan, Ryuka no Jutsu, Fire Dragon Technique, Itachi said, unleashing a torrent of fire towards the flying Orochimaru, engulfing him in flames. Orochimaru tumbled into the ground, consumed by flames. I got you, Sasuke yelled as he took opportunity of Itachi's jutsu. Sasuke appeared behind Itachi with his sword drawn, ready to impale his older brother. Plying, Sasuke's eyes widened when his sword was blocked by Nao's. She smirked and held her grip as Sasuke pushed forward, in a battle of strength. Itachi burst into crows as both Nao and Sasuke disengaged and jumped apart. Enough, Orochimaru yelled as he dropped to the ground and opened his mouth. Madara no Jin, formation of 10,000 snakes, Orochimaru said as countless snakes started emerging from his mouth. Thousands upon thousands of snakes that rose high into the sky. All of them opened their mouths to reveal a sword at the tip. Susanoo Itachi and Nao both said as two towering ethereal samurais appeared. Their chakras spiked as sabers appeared in their arms and they began slicing the snakes into nothing. Amaterasu, both Uchihas said as a gigantic wave of black flames rained down on Orochimaru's attack. The Susanoos disappeared as everyone looked for Orochimaru. the snakes had all been disintegrated. Chidori Iso, Chidori Laser Spear. Out of nowhere a lighting blade was shot from Sasuke's wrist, heading straight towards Now. Itachi bumped Now out of the way and got pierced right through his shoulder. Bastard Now snarled as she ran towards Sasuke. Itachi stumbled to the ground as he clutched to his bleeding shoulder. "I've been waiting for this opportunity," Orochimaru chuckled darkly as he rose from the ground in front of Itachi. "Tsukuyomi!" Orochimaru gasped as Itachi locked eyes with him, placing Orochimaru in his strongest genjutsu. Tsukuyomi whirled. The world around Orochimaru shimmered out of existence and was replaced by a sea of red and a black sun. Orochimaru found himself in a new world, with Itachi standing right in front of him. This again, Orochimaru chuckled at Itachi's pathetic attempt of stopping him. "This genjutsu no longer works against me," Orochimaru said. "Then break it," Itachi simply replied. "Kai," Orochimaru said as he flared his chakra, but nothing happened. He flared his chakra once again, but the illusion didn't even waver. He took a step back when he noticed Itachi calmly walking towards him with his eternal spinning. Even if you now possess the Manjikyu Sharingan, you shouldn't underestimate the power of an eternal. If you think that all it does is preventing blindness, then you are mistaken, Itachi explained, still walking towards Orochimaru, who was suddenly strapped into a cross. "The eternal Manjikyu has granted me one final power," Itachi said, smiling, while Orochimaru just stared in horror as several blades rose from the ground, created from nothingness. "With the eternal, my illusions can achieve their final level. With my new eyes, I can turn any injury I do to you into a very painful reality," Itachi said, smiling, and Orochimaru's eyes widened. "My strongest illusion, one that can trick the brain itself into thinking that the injuries are real and have them inflicted in the physical body, the highest level of illusion one can achieve, this Orochimaru da is my Shinko Tsukuyomi, true Tsukuyomi," Itachi said as he picked up a blade. There is a downside, unfortunately," Itachi said, sighing, and Orochimaru seemed somewhat relived. "I can't hold the illusion for long like I could with my original Tsukuyomi, so let's not wait any longer," Itachi said as he swung his blade. Back in the real world, both Orochimaru and Itachi were frozen, looking into each other's eyes without even blinking. Suddenly, a deep gash appeared in Orochimaru's cheek, letting blood leak out freely. Just as things couldn't get any weirder, Orochimaru's right eye exploded in a cloud of blood and flesh. Interesting, Naruto thought as he watched several cuts and gashes appear on Orochimaru's body out of nowhere. Now and Sasuke were engaged in a heated taijutsu brawl. Sasuke's Susanoo could only brace himself against the onslaught of Nao's fire taijutsu, who apparently could melt almost anything. "My dance," Nao yelled as her arms burst in black flames. "Korwa Hano no Mai, dance of the black flame," Nao said as her Sharingan started glowing and she dashed forward, jumping to the side as a purple arrow flew by and crashed into the ground. Sasuke coughed as his chakra levels dropped and he was forced into a single rib-caged Susanoo. He had been fighting for hours and his chakra levels were running low, while Nao had arrived just moments ago and had plenty of chakra to go around. Sasuke was forced to kneel as Nao punched the Susanoo, leaving behind her black flames as they began to eat away his shield. Sasuke's Sharingan was glowing as he frantically searched for his opponent. Sasuke caught a blur and braced himself as Nao materialized herself in front of him and kicked him. Sasuke's Susanoo cracked as he sent flying and crashing into the ground, making a crater. Nao watched as Sasuke stumbled to get up, his Susanoo dropping and blood leaking from his mouth and other wounds on his body. Rghhhhhhh now shifted her attention away from Sasuke and towards the origin of the scream. She looked towards Itachi as he took deep breaths to regain his breathing. Standing in front of Itachi was Orochimaru with one eye destroyed and several deep gashes all over his body. Orochimaru's right arm laid unmoving on the ground as he clutched to stop the bleeding. Nao smiled at Orochimaru's state as she approached Itachi and holstered him up by the arm. "If you think this is the end of me, you are wrong," Orochimaru snarled as he vanished in the wind. Nao and Itachi turned towards Sasuke, who still remained on the ground. "What now, Sasuke?" Itachi asked as Sasuke lifted his head towards his adversaries to display black eyes. The Sharingan had been disabled due to lack of chakra. Arghhhhhh Sasuke screamed in pain as Orochimaru appeared behind his back with a sword on his mouth. Orochimaru pierced through Sasuke's chest, right through his heart. "I'm not leaving here empty-handed," Orochimaru screamed as he slithered around Sasuke and brought his hand to his eyes. Rasengan in a flash, Naruto was beside Orochimaru, slamming his orb of silver chakra into his chest. Orochimaru was blasted away from Sasuke before he could steal his eyes. He crashed into the walls and simply slid to the ground, unmoving. Enter Naruto Shippuden OST 2 Track 23 Senya Sasuke Itachi said as he hurriedly approached his younger brother who now laid on the ground, bleeding from his wound. Itachi kneeled beside his brother, placing his hand on top of Sasuke's chest to stem the blood flow. Itachi looked at Sasuke who was coughing and taking quick and deep breaths. Why? Why did it have to end like this? Itachi sadly asked. Don't know. Sasuke coughed a mouthful of blood before continuing. I just wanted my family back. Cough, I hated you most of my life for killing our family. Then I learned that they were alive, you betrayed them and I vowed to kill you, Sasuke said looking away. I just wanted my family back. I wanted it to be like it was before the whole thing happened. Cough, with the fangirls yelling at how awesome I was, with Sakura punching the blonde idiot, Sasuke said smiling and making Naruto chuckle. And with you as my big brother, Sasuke said with a lone tear streaming down his face. Foolish little brother, Itachi said bringing his forehead to Sasuke's. I will always be your big brother as you will always be my little one, Itachi said, and Sasuke smiled. I'll see you around. Nii. Sasuke said as he let out his last breath and closed his eyes forever. In the end, he was just a lost kid, Kurama said as Naruto watched the end of one Uchiha Sasuke, a friend and an enemy. What now? Now asked as she turned away from Sasuke and towards Itachi who seemed to be looking towards the horizon. You know you can't return to the Akatsuki with Tobi being Fugaku now said. Let's go home, Itachi, Naruto said approaching the man and placing his hand on his shoulder, healing his wound. Your real home, Naruto said and watched as Itachi sighed but nodded. Katun, fire style, Naruto said as he kneeled down beside Sasuke and placed a hand on his chest. Sasuke's body started glowing orange until he burst into flames and in just a few seconds, he was nothing more than dust. He's gone now, yelled as she ran back to Naruto and Itachi. She was after Orochimaru but there was nothing left of where he crashed. Orochimaru is meaningless as of now. He will just crawl back to his lab and try to repair his body, Naruto said, explained in motion now to come towards him. Let's go home, Naruto said as he touched both Uchihas. May you find happiness in the afterlife. Knowing you didn't find it here, Itachi thought, looking at the sky, as Naruto and both Uchihas disappeared in a flash of yellow, leaving behind the battlefield. Chapter 51, A Fated Meeting. Amagakura no Sato, otherwise known as the Hidden Rain Village. This is a small, yet highly industrialized hidden village. Its architecture is composed of several metallic skyscrapers with road ducts connected to them and many power lines surrounding. As its name suggests, it rains almost constantly due to a storm above the village. All the water seemingly ends in a large lake that surrounds the village. History has always been grim for this village. Located in the middle of the 5 great nations didn't exactly help much either. While this location was excellent as it provided good trade routes that boosted the village's economy, it also had problems, and the main one was war. The Rain Village, and many other small villages, would always get caught in the battles of the Great 5 Nations. Even if they chose to remain neutral, they were dragged into endless conflict until one side admit defeat. This was what had happened during the last Great Ninja Wars. The Second Great Shinobi War had crippled the village as she stood between 3 of the great nations. Konoha led by Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage, Iwa led of Oinoki, the Sandaime Tsuchikage and Suna, led by their Sandaime Kazekage and wielder of the Iron Sand bloodline. Aim and their leader Salamander Hanzo was forced to participate in this battle, and during it, the Sannin were born. And then came the third and last Great Ninja War. A war that managed to involve all of the 5 great nations. Out of those 5, the Fire and the Earth country clashed with unprecedented fierceness, and Aim paid the price by being the battlefield. By the end of it, the Hidden Rain Village was in total chaos. Thousands dead and even more injured. The surviving became nothing more than war refugees, surviving as the years passed by. Eventually Hanzo was removed from power by none other than Uzumaki Nagato, or as he is known, Pain. He defeated and killed Hanzo and every one of his followers, becoming the new leader of the Rain Village. Pain, the self-entitled god of peace, rules the rain village with by an iron fist, and anyone who disobeys him gets killed. The Deva path, or Yahiko's body being controlled by Nagato, stood in the tallest building in the village. Pain's Tower, as the building was called. From there Nagato could see to the far ends of his village, right to the gates. It made him a higher power to anyone below as he stood watching over his village, untiring and unyielding. Good job. Pain turned around from his balcony on the tower to gaze at the owner of the voice. Toby was standing in the room wearing the usual black cloak with red clouds and, as expected, his orange mask in place, with the right Sharingan glowing behind it. Toby, Pain said as he watched the man slowly approach him. With the Sanbai captured, we now have 5 of the 9 Bijus. Nibi from Kumo, Sanbai and Rokubi from Kiri and the Yanbi and Gobi from Iwa. Toby said, and Pain nodded. The Akatsuki had already captured 5 of the 9 Biju. They had targeted these Jinchurikis since they had no backing from their village. Utakata, Rashi and Han traveled alone through the elemental nations, making them easy targets for the Akatsuki members. The Sanbai was released, so Pain took him down and captured him. And Yujito had simply been ambushed in a mission and thus giving Akatsuki the Nibi. What will we do about the rest? Pain asked. The Hachibi will be harder to get since we will most likely have to go through the Raikage as well. Then we will need the Ichibi, Nanabai, and finally the Kyubi. Pain said, and Toby nodded. Neither of those 4s will be easy to take. The Raikage will be a problem and the Kyubi brat has grown strong, Toby said, sighing. We already have the Kyubi's chakra from that fire temple kid Sora sealed in the statue, Pain neutrally said, but Toby chuckled. And you think Naruto will just stand by and watch us take the other Biju? For reasons I don't understand, he made it his personal mission to stop us. You heard what he said at the meeting, he's going to hunt us down, Toby chuckled, but Pain remained unchanged. No one will stop my quest. Anyone that becomes an obstacle will simply be removed with extreme prejudice, Pain replied in his monotone voice until his Rinnegan began glowing as he focused on Toby. Even you, Toby. I know that you are not Uchiha Madara like you claimed, and, frankly, I don't care as long you stay out of my way, Pain said, and Toby chuckled. You forget your place, Nagato, Toby warned. I was the one that taught how to properly control the Rinnegan. You should be more respectful to your betters, Toby said with his Sharingan glowing a menacing red. It doesn't matter since our interests are aligned, Toby replied, not wishing to push Pain too far from his control. For now, Toby added in thought, as he could always kill him should it be necessary and take the Rinnegan for himself. How are you planning on getting the remaining 4's Bijus? Pain asked, curious about Toby's plans. Toby began but was interrupted when he felt Zetsu approaching. Strange, Toby thought, as he hadn't requested anything of Zetsu as of late. What is it? Toby asked, annoyed since as he was interrupted. I should tell you that Sasuke is dead, Zetsu replied, and Toby's eyes widened. What? Toby yelled in outrage. What happened? Toby asked, completely bewildered. He couldn't fathom how could Sasuke had died. Explain now, Toby yelled, glaring at Zetsu, who seemed to remain calm and unaffected. He died in his battle with Itachi, Zetsu simply replied, and Toby's jaw dropped. Take it from the beginning, Toby ordered as he calmed himself down. I cannot explain any further, Zetsu said, and Toby raised an eyebrow. And why not? Toby asked, irritated. Because Naruto-sama ordered me not to, Zetsu replied, and Toby scowled. The blonde had yet again interfered with his plans. Looks like things are coming to bite you on the ass, Pain said as he bit back a chuckle. The whole persona of Toby being Madara had begun crumbling down the moment Naruto revealed his grandfather back in the Chunin exams, 3 years ago. TSK, Toby sighed in annoyance. That blonde brat is always where he shouldn't be. Where is Itachi now? Toby asked, wanting to get some answer from him. He returned to Konoha, Zetsu replied, and Toby sat down as he began to nurse his temples. This isn't going well, Toby sighed. He had everything planned out until Naruto started making a mess of everything. Even now, almost 17 years of planning to get Sasuke just washed away with him getting killed. I could bring him back if you wish, Pain offered, and Toby sat up at the realization that Nagato could bring him back, although at the cost of becoming even more fragile. Where is Sasuke's body? Toby asked towards the white plant on the ground. Reduced to ashes, Zetsu simply replied. I guess it can't be helped, Toby said as he walked into the balcony and overlooked the city. In the end he was just another pawn, Toby thought to himself. You were saying about the other bijou, Pain said as Toby refocused on their current objective. Since Itachi has betrayed us, that leaves one man shorter. I'll be heading to my hideout and I will begin preparing the Zetsu army. We will need all the numbers we can, Toby explained. Are you heading towards the mountain's graveyard? Pain asked, but Toby shook his head in denial. No. I will be at my main hideout. The one that no one besides me and Zetsu know about, Toby said, and Pain didn't seem pleased not knowing where to find Toby. Until then, Toby said, and warped away. Few days later, Toby watched as the Geto Mazo statue slowly funneled chakra into the white Zetsu. Several white Zetsu were being produced from the chakra generated from the bijus. It seemed like a factory, and a highly efficient one at that. Bijou had a limitless supply of chakra since, once empty, they would just refill given an appropriate waiting time. How many? Toby asked towards the original Zetsu. Toby was simply watching the events unfold with a smirk. He was literally watching the birth of his army, one that, in time, would be big enough to topple the elemental countries if need be. We have 3,000 as of now, and I estimate we can achieve 5,000 by the end of the week, Zetsu replied, and, although he couldn't see it, he knew that Toby was smiling behind that mask. Excellent, Toby happily replied. I trust they will obey only me, correct? Toby asked, and Zetsu nodded. Toby really didn't want for his army to march into the battlefield only to be told to return home by Naruto. I will be at other hideout in the meantime, Toby said, and swirled away. Mountain's graveyard. Toby arrived at the base of his hideout and simply began walking towards the entrance. He was deep in thought and giddy at the prospect of having his new army that he wasn't really paying attention to his surroundings. Toby kept walking until his foot hit something. He looked down to see that he had kicked an arm, and a bloody one at that. What the hell? Toby said out loud as he took in his surroundings, only for his eyes to widen in shock, disbelief, and anger. All at the same time. This hideout was the place where the Uchiha clan was living, and the very same reason why Toby chose his other hideout to build his army. All around the entrance into the hideout were bodies. Some of them were turned into stone, with shock clearly written into their faces, like they were petrified in an instant. Arms, legs, pieces that he didn't knew they belonged to human body to begin with were sprayed across the grounds. Pools of blood everywhere and the stink of decomposing bodies filled his nostrils. Swords, kunai and shurikens filled the grounds and the massive walls that surrounded the entrance. Even those old bones that were there, even before Madara had showed him this hideout, were now nothing more than ash. And that was until he noticed just the amount of pieces there were. Toby estimated at least 100 bodies, and that was just counting the petrified ones. Toby approached one of them and gasped when he saw a 3-tomoed pattern in the rock. Toby quickly approached the entrance but noticed that it was blocked. When he approached it, he saw some message still imprinted in the wall, burning in black flames. Compliments of the Kyuubi brat, Toby read in absolute anger and hate. The brat had somehow found about his hideout. Oh, Naruto would pay very dearly for this. Years of planning, all gone in the blink of an eye. The Uchiha clan, years of training, supplies, 1 decade to prepare to their plan, and everything just washed away. Arghhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhh This wasn't a battle to begin with. It had been a massacre. One day earlier, Konoha, it was a beautiful and sunny day all over Konoha. The Hidden Leaf Village basked with sunlight. Merchants opened their stores and various shinobi could be seen jumping from rooftops to rooftops. Up in the walls, several shinobi stood guard, watching the horizon for any sign of trouble. This is boring, some Chunnin replied as he stretched his arms and popped his back. I hate surveillance gigs, he said. You complain too much, soldier. Eyes front, Ibiki ordered, and the Chunnin immediately assumed a correct position. Heads up, Ibiki said, and the Chunnin turned to him confused. Swoosh wa, the Chunnin cried as he stumbled due to some blonde shinobi blurring in front of him. Who was that? The Chunnin asked as he already lost vision of him. The Chunnin hadn't even sensed him approach and only caught a glimpse of yellow hair. Senju Naruto, Ibiki replied, making the Chunnin's jaw drop. What is he doing here? The Chunin asked. Everyone had heard about the Senju clan heir. Morning workout, Ibiki said, and the Chunin gulped. At that speed? The Chunin asked, stupefied, and Ibiki chuckled. You don't get rank status by being lazy, Ibiki explained, chuckling, and made a head motion towards the Chunin, who took a step back as Naruto blurred by them again. That is insane, the Chunin cried in disbelief, and Ibiki chuckled again. Heads up, Ibiki said, but this time the Chunin caught glimpse of a purple blur. The Chunin spinned around until he dropped on the floor with his head spinning. And that? The Chunin asked. Senju Hinata, Ibiki replied. Senju? The Chunin asked, confused. I'm surprised you don't know. The whole village already knows those two are engaged, Ibiki replied, only to smirk at the Chunin's shocked face. The brat is only 17, the Chunin pouted. With Naruto and Hinata, how come you didn't wake me up? Hinata asked as she caught up with Naruto. Both of them were running on the walls around Konoha in their warm-up routine for the day. You looked peaceful on your sleep, Naruto replied, looking back. How many laps you have left? Hinata asked. Just the one, Naruto replied, and raised an eyebrow when he saw Hinata smile. Race you home, Hinata said as she blurred away from Naruto and quickly disappeared from view. That's cheating, Naruto yelled as he also picked up speed. At the Senju compound, I won, Hinata said, smirking as she watched Naruto arrive. You cheated, Naruto pouted. You want to say that to my face? Both Naruto and Hinata heard yelling coming from inside the compound. Both of them opened the door and walked inside to see a strange situation that, funnily enough, everyone saw coming. Both Tobirama and Now were staring at each other with sparks flying across their eyes. Itachi was at the table and could only sigh at their antics. Senju Uchiha, both of them yelled as the sparks intensified and their chakra spiked. Can't you keep her in control? Naruto asked towards Itachi, who gave him an "Are you serious?" face. I just got my life and I want to keep it, Itachi simply replied. Alright, knock it off, Kushina said, but both Tobirama and Now didn't even move. Don't make me go get my sword, Kushina replied sweetly, making everyone pale. Tobirama and Now quickly stopped their antics and split apart. Just another day at the Senju compound. Poof, there was a cloud smoke right in the middle of the room, gathering the attention towards it. When the smoke cleared, a single toad was standing in the middle of the room with a scroll in his mouth. A message from Arosen and Naruto said as Tsunade walked towards the toad and collected the scroll. Jiraiya has found the Uchiha clan hideout. It seems Now's information was right, Tsunade said as she destroyed the message and placed on the table the hideout's location. Of course it was Now, said, crossing her arms. Jiraiya is waiting on us. Now what? Tsunade asked towards the dragons. We strike, Tobirama simply said as he got up. According to Jiraiya, the hideout has a single entrance that is located in the crater. We will have higher ground and we will be able to ambush them, Tobirama explained. Don't we think we might be rushing this? Tsunade pondered. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt, Tobirama said as Tsunade had to agree. For those who were born and lived during the clan wars, they knew war better than anyone. So we will attack at night and Naruto will use his Kirin Jutsu. That makes sense, Minato said, nodding, making everyone blink and turn to him. What? Minato asked, confused, and Kushina just slapped her forehead. Sometimes I wonder why Hiruzen made you Hokage, Tobirama said, and pretty much summed everyone's thoughts. And once we ambush them, we will do what? Hashirama said, getting suspicious. We will kill them all, Tobirama coldly said, making Hashirama flinch at his tone. You are insane, Hashirama said with a shocked face. They were just following their clan head. Some of them might be good people like those two, Hashirama said, pointing towards Itachi and Now. Both of them remained silent as they watched both Senju brothers bicker. We might not have other choice, Naruto softly said, and everyone turned to him. You too, Hashirama said, shaking his head. You would slaughter nearly 300 Uchihas just like that, Hashirama asked in disbelief. Damn it, Hashirama, Naruto said, slamming his hand on the table, making everyone flinch. Don't take me for some naive kid. You know very well what Now said about their plans. They have above 50 Manjiki as Hashirama. 50 Naruto stated. They can conquer any village with the right plan and their numbers alone, Naruto explained. They can, it doesn't mean they will, Hashirama firmly said, and Naruto shook his head. And would you be willing to wait and find out? Naruto asked, and Hashirama remained silent. Itachi. What's your take on this? Naruto asked towards the silent Uchiha. I made peace with my clan a long time ago. Their fate is not mine to choose, Itachi simply said, and Naruto sighed. Bachan, Naruto said, turning towards Tsunade, who smiled in understanding. I'm the Hokage Naruto, my primary concern is the welfare of the village. You are the leader of the dragons, so it's your choice to make, Tsunade replied, and Naruto nodded and watched as everyone looked at him, waiting for his answer. Kurama. Your opinion, Naruto said in thought as he wanted one last opinion before making his choice. I don't know what the fuss is about. You have already killed more than 300, Kurama simply replied, but Naruto remained silent. But those kills were never premeditated. The Uchiha clan hasn't done anything yet. They may be arrogant or vicious, but that isn't cause for termination. It was all Fugaku. How would you justify killing 300 people, which most might be innocent? Naruto thought, sighing. That is war, Naruto. Most of the times neither side is right or wrong. They simply fight for what they think is right. They fight for revenge, power, land, money, and even love. It doesn't matter, and that is why my father and your predecessor tried so hard to bring peace, but, in the end, he failed, Kurama replied, and Naruto slowly nodded, his mind clouded by Kurama's words. Perspective is a funny thing, wouldn't you say? Naruto rhetorically asked, chuckling. Kurama just raised an eyebrow. Look at Nagato. I don't know what made him that way, but for him to chase peace so vehemently. He holds nothing back to reach his goal, and I can easily tell that Fugaku is simply manipulating him to Nagato. Peace is achieved by pain. When mankind know each other's pain, then they will understand each other and cease this pointless bloodshed. Then we have Fugaku's point of view, a man who simply wishes to rule the world. And finally me. Naruto said, smiling as he looked up to see Kurama. I will bring peace to this world on my own. I will carry this world's hate and lead it to a brighter tomorrow. I will bear the burden of my choices, and I will bring peace to the world in my own way. This world is but an orphan child, and I will unite it under one banner, not through force or an illusion, but through love and understanding, Naruto said as he made up his mind. He would bear the burden, and he alone would suffer with the pain and consequences his choices may bring. There will be no Konoha, no Kumo, no Iwa, no Kiri, and no Suna. There will only be one people. On a lonely planet. There will only be one shinobi, Naruto finished as he looked towards Kurama, whose jaw was on the ground. You, Kurama stuttered as he tried to come with the right words. Kurama chuckled as he looked towards the grinning face of Naruto. Then I will help on your quest. As will all of my siblings, Kurama said as he brought his fist down for Naruto to bump it. You have your answer, I see, Kurama said, and Naruto tilted his head on confusion. You are ready to meet him, Kurama said. Me, Naruto was about to ask who he was meeting when he simply toppled to the floor unconscious. Naruto, everyone on the outside world yelled as Naruto fell to the ground. Hinata was already upon him running a diagnosed jutsu, but everything seemed fine with him. His heart rate was stable and his chakra network seemed to be running normally as well. Although everything was fine with his body, his conscious mind wandered off into the beyond and into unknown places. I see you decided to bring him before me, some old man said as he watched the Kyuubi approach him with Naruto unconscious on his head. Kuramakin, the old man added, lifting his head and displaying two silvery Rinnegan eyes. The old man floating in front of Kurama had deep wrinkles, a long beard and short light grayish-colored shaggy hair that spiked up in the front with two distinctive parts of his hair resembling horns and a chin-length braid hanging in front of his left ear. He had pronounced eyebrow ridges with small horn protrusions above them. He also had a Rinnegan-like marking on his forehead. He wore a white full-length cloak, Haori, with a high collar, revealing his necklace with 6 red Magatama. On the back of his cloak was a reflection of a seal which had the Rinnegan with 9 Magatama in 3 rows beneath it. Just like you said, old man, Kurama said, giving the old man a toothy grin. That I did, the old man replied, chuckling as he watched Kurama lower Naruto into the ground. Naruto squirmed on the ground as he seemed too deep into some dream. First memory Kazan, a little kid yelled in glee as he ran through the halls of the palace where he lived. The little boy had short and spiky brown hair, but the most interesting fact about him would be his silver eyes, with several concentric circles around them. Slow down Hagoromo-kun, some woman replied with a gentle smile. Hagoromo just grinned as he looked at the smiling face of his mother. She had very delicate facial feature. She had long, sweeping light-colored hair that touched the ground. Most noticeably were two horn-like protrusions which stuck out from her head, a trait shared with her son. Her eyebrows were cut very short, an outward symbol of royalty, and she wore a dark shade of lipstick on her lips and a dark shade of nail polish on her long fingernails. She wore the transitional high-collared himekimono, which was adored with intricate lines in tomo running down the center and edges of the gown. Look, Hagoromo hurriedly said as he sat on the ground in lotus position. Kaguya, the woman in front of him and his mother, just smiled at the bubbly actions of her son. Hagoromo took a deep breath as he concentrated. A small gust of wind was felt and Kaguya raised an eyebrow as she watched her son start to levitate from the ground. It was nothing more than a simple inch at first, but he kept going higher into the air as the time passed. 1 minute later and Hagoromo was already 3 feet of the ground. Careful now, Kaguya warned, concerned that her son might hurt himself. I can go higher, Hagoromo said, desperate to prove himself. In a burst of air, Hagoromo rose nearly 10 feet into the air in the fraction of a second. See, Hagoromo said, smiling triumphantly. Hagoromo shouted as he lost his concentration in the midst of his own celebration. Hagoromo started falling, but instead of hitting the hard and cold floor of the palace, he found himself on his mother's arms. My bad, Hagoromo said, chuckling, while Kaguya just smiled. Second memory, this is as far as you will go, a now older version of Hagoromo shouted. He looked like he had just passed his teens and became a young adult. Hagoromo was standing in the way of a colossal beast. The beast was titanic in size, with each limb being just big, if not bigger, than Bijus themselves. The beast possessed visible legs, which it used along with its right arm to stand, as its left arm was missing at the elbow. Its facial appearance was possessed of a single ear on the right side of its head, while its mouth, which contained straight teeth and a nostril, moved to the left side, and several horns formed on various parts on its head with 2 underneath its chin. All in all, it was monster in every way of the word. It had no conscience and knew no end. Its only goal was to reclaim what was stolen from him, chakra. With a single swipe of his tentacles, entire continents were split in half. With a mighty roar, oceans were vaporized. Hagoromo was fighting the Shinju, or as most now know it, the Jubi. Rinbo, Hengoku, Hagoromo shouted as he slammed his staff on the ground and gigantic pulse of gravity was unleashed. The beast, that could easily destroy the lands, was flung back, tumbling through the ground, crashing and destroying mountains until it came to an end, and yet, it seemed unhurt. To think you were unhurt against such attack, Hagoromo said as he took a deep breath. Sweat was pouring down his face as he stood his ground against the strongest beast alive. Senpumayo Jinman, sage artsgate of the great god, Hagoromo said as dozens of red tories fell from above, pinning the Jubi to the ground. Large red gates pinned his tails, arms and legs as the beast was momentarily trapped. This should buy me enough time, Hagoromo said as he felt the beast struggle as his gates start to crack. Hagoromo sat on the ground in lotus position as he began to concentrate. Small rocks around him started levitating and a small gust of wind swayed by. Hagoromo slammed his hands together and slowly began to drive them apart. A pitch-black sphere started forming between his hands. A buzzing sound was heard as this black sphere started growing in size, reaching the size of a football until it stopped. Chochibaku Tensei, big planetary devastation, Hagoromo said as he released the black ball and watched it sail through the air and high into the sky. The sphere started glowing and the whole planet started shaking. Chunks of earth, big as mountains themselves, were ripped from the ground, giving birth to gigantic craters. The Jubi broke his restraints and pinned his tails to the ground, in a desperate move to secure himself to earth. Nizan, now Hagoromo yelled towards his brother who was in the ground in meditative position. Ceiling style, Hagoromo's brother said as he slammed his hands on the ground. 16 trigrams divine seal, the brother said as hundreds of purplish chains, almost transparent, rose from his location. These chains quickly made their way towards the Jubi like snakes, they slithered towards their target. The chains wrapped themselves around the Jubi and started siphoning their chakra into Hagoromo, who gritted his teeth, feeling the heavy chakra enter his body. Orghhhhh, the Jubi yelled to the skies as the beast started shrinking. The beast's form started wavering and the skin itself started withering away until it remained nothing more than a brown husk, depleted of life. Hagoromo absorbed all the chakra of the Jubi and tumbled forward, using his arms to steady himself and taking deep breaths. Hagoromo looked up at the sky to see the new addiction. A new planetary form had just been created, and inside it, the depleted husk of Jubi, sealed away for all eternity. WWE 1 Nizan, Hagoromo said as his brother held him by the shoulder. Yes, we did, his brother replied, smiling as both left the battlefield. Third memory, we see Hagoromo again, but this time he was already at an old age. He stood in the middle of a circle with several kanji in it. Around him stood all the 9 Bijou, still young as they had just been born from being split from the Jubi. Shikako, Matatbai, Isabu, Sengoku, Kakuo, Seiken, Shomei, Gyuki, and Kurama. Hagoromo started as all the Bijou listened in. You will always be together, even when you are separated. And one day, you will all become one. With different names. In different forms than you exist now. And unlike when you were within me, you will be led down the right path. When the time comes, you will know what true power is. Hagoromo said as he released his last breath. All the Bijous bowed their heads to their father. You will seek someone worthy, and when you find him, God, bring him before me. Kurama remembered his father's request as he let out a lone tear. End of memories. Naruto groaned as he opened his eyes, still a bit hazy from the rush of memories, and caught his surroundings. He looked around and spotted Kurama behind him, grinning like a madman. Naruto got onto his feet and noticed a floating old man in front of him. Hagoromo. Naruto started. He took in the appearance of the man in front of him. Otsutsuki. Naruto breathed out in shock, looking at the Sage of Six Paths, standing right there in front of him. Is this some joke? Naruto asked, annoyed towards Kurama, who chuckled in return. I assure you I'm very real, Hagoromo replied as he stopped floating and stood on the ground. It's very nice to finally meet you face to face, Senju. Naruto. Hagoromo said, smiling as Naruto's jaw dropped. He had very good reasons for it. After all, Hagoromo Otsutsuki, father to all ninjutsu and to all shinobi, was standing right in front of Naruto. It's an honor to meet you in person, Naruto chuckled nervously, bowing to the sage in respect. How are you here, if I'm not so bold to ask? Naruto carefully asked, as he didn't want to anger him. When I created all of my sons and daughters, I sealed my last chakra into Kurama, Hagoromo replied, and Naruto's jaw dropped. And I gave Kurama the task to find a worthy heir, one that shared my beliefs. I guess you could say it was poetic justice for you to bear the Rinnegan as well, Hagoromo chuckled while Naruto just nodded dumbly. You knew all along? Naruto asked towards Kurama. Of course, Kurama replied, puffing his chest in pride. I kept this fact hidden and searched through the ages for the man my father said that would unite the world and bring peace. I thought that man was Senju Hashirama, but I was wrong and moved on. Then I thought that man would be Namake's Minato, but he failed as well. But the moment I first met you, I could see it through your eyes that you would be the one. Hashirama is a good man, but is too soft and forgiving. Minato is exactly like him, strong, caring and forgiving to a fault. Tobirama is the opposite of his brother and Minato. He cares only for the protection of his own people, and he would do anything for them, regarding what damage we would cause to the others. You bear the best attributes from each of them. You do whatever it takes to protect the people you care for, but you still feel bad for any pain you cause to the other side. Even though you are pondering if you should kill the Uchiha clan. It's true they may be innocent, but killing them would a crucial strike against the Akatsuki and Tobi. For some reason you are able to see beyond that and make choices for the greater good no matter the consequences. A true leader, Naruto, that is what you are. It is a curious thing, Naruto, but perhaps those who are best suited to power are those who have never sought it. Those who, like you, have leadership thrust upon them, and take up the mantle because they must, and find to their own surprise that they wear it well. You speak as if I am a leader. Would a good leader be willing to simply lay waste to innocent men for the greater good? Naruto asked, and Hagoromo smiled. He reminded himself so much in that boy. All the struggles he had endured because of his eyes and powers. We're all human, aren't we? Every human life is worth the same, and worth saving, Hagoromo said as Naruto turned to him. So should I just ignore the fact they betrayed the village and went to work towards a man that killed thousands of innocent people? How do you know when it's right to kill, most likely, innocent people? Naruto asked and Hagoromo smiled. That is your choice to make, Hagoromo said and Naruto groaned. Give me some answers, old man, Naruto complained. You are older, wiser and more powerful than me, Naruto said, but Hagoromo only chuckled. You are right on 2 counts. I am older, Hagoromo said, flicking a string of his gray hair. And I am wiser since you are nothing but a knucklehead, Hagoromo said, chuckling as Naruto's eyes twitched. But I am not more powerful than you, Hagoromo said, and Naruto's jaw dropped. But Naruto stuttered at Hagoromo's outrageous claim. You created the moon. While I am strong myself, I could never achieve something like that, Naruto said, refuting the old man's claims. It always seems impossible until it's done. Hagoromo said, and Naruto pondered if he would be able to do such feat. He was broken from his thoughts when Hagoromo started walking towards him. Hagoromo arrived near him and placed a hand above his chest. I can feel it and you can as well. You are stronger than me, Hagoromo said, smiling as he watched Naruto slowly nod and agreed with him. You still didn't answer my question, old man, Naruto said knowingly as the sage chuckled. My life ended many centuries ago, Naruto. It's your turn to watch over the world. I can show you the path, but only you can walk on it, the sage replied, and Naruto groaned. It looked like no one was going to give him straight answers. So should I just kill them and be done with it? Naruto pondered. Is it the possibility of regret you fear? Hagoromo asked and Naruto slowly nodded. Real leaders must be ready to sacrifice all for the happiness of their people, Hagoromo said, and Naruto chuckled. You are right. I would do everything for the happiness of my people, but what about the others' happiness? Naruto countered. We could stay here all day long arguing about philosophical points of view and never reach the right answer. Every choice you make will have its consequences. It's how you deal with them that defines who and what you are, Hagoromo explained, and Naruto nodded. I will stick by my choices and I will finish what you started. I will unite the world under a single banner and the world will know peace, Naruto said, grinning, making Hagoromo nod his head. It's time for me to leave, Hagoromo said, smiling as he lifted his hand onto the air. Specks of light could be seen emanating from his hand, who by now was almost see-through. I have nothing else to give other than these 2 things, Hagoromo said as he took out his 6-tomoed cape and placed it around Naruto. When he was finished, he picked up his staff and placed it on Naruto's hands. The staff is my greatest weapon and the one that I wielded in my fight against the Jubi, Hagoromo said as Naruto grasped the staff tightly. Naruto hit the staff on the ground and watched as the ground shook and several ripples appeared on the water. Did you never find it strange that Bojutsu was the first art you learned and yet you mastered it so quickly and at such young age? Hagoromo questioned as he watched Naruto do some experimental swings with his new weapon. With a single swing, powerful gusts of wind erupted from it, another swing and a cloud of fire rose from it. And the cape? Naruto asked, curious, while Hagoromo just grinned. It makes you look badass, Hagoromo said while Naruto and Kurama sweat dropped. I'm leaving, Hagoromo said as his whole body started becoming transparent. The world is in your hands now, it's my legacy to you, Hagoromo said as he exploded into shining particles of light. Let's go change the world into a better place, Kurama, Naruto said, and Kurama nodded, taking Naruto from this plane and back to his own world. Back in the real world, only a few seconds had passed since Naruto had fallen unconscious on the ground, and the whole compound was a riot. Hinata and Tsunade were all over Naruto trying to diagnose just what happened. Minato and Tobirama were scanning Naruto's seal for any possible malfunction or possible overload of him having the whole Kyuubi. And that was when it happened. Naruto suddenly opened his eyes to reveal his Rinnegan glowing in a silver color. As his eyes opened, a small shockwave was released, sending everyone tumbling backwards. Naruto smiled as he started getting up. Everyone watched in shock as a white cape started manifesting itself all around Naruto. He now wore a white full-length cloak with a high collar, with several black magatamas. On the back of his cloak was a reflection of a seal which had the Rinnegan with 9 magatama in 3 rows beneath it. As if things couldn't get any weirder, a metal staff started forming in his right hand. To some it would seem like some piece of metal, but it was so much more. It was lighter but stronger than steel. Naruto ran chakra through his staff and everyone watched as a broken circle appeared at one end while he rested the other on the ground. While moments ago Naruto seemed too confused in what to do or what to choose, this Naruto seemed to radiate peace and understanding. His eyes seemed to betray wisdom beyond ages. It was as if Naruto had been reconnected to a lost piece of himself. It looked like Naruto had found inner peace. So Naruto said, breaking everyone from their trance, "You won't believe who I just met," Naruto said, grinning. And Naruto Minato stuttered as he looked towards his son. "Where did you get that staff?" Minato asked in shock. There wasn't much information regarding the Sage of the Six Paths, but anyone shinobi worth his salt would at least know the legend that created chakra. "I met him, Hagoromo Otsutsuki," Naruto said while everyone looked at Naruto in confusion. "You know him as the Sage of the Six Paths," Naruto said, and everyone's jaw dropped. "I know that feeling," Naruto said as his new staff disappeared into his storage seals and he sat down. "I thought it was a prank from Kurama when I saw him in front of me," Naruto chuckled while everyone just listened in. Apparently the sage sealed some of his chakra into Kurama to be released when Kurama had found a worthy heir. "I met him and talked to him. He advised and gave me his staff as a gift," Naruto said, and everyone slowly nodded like some robots in sync. "We will strike at night. No survivors," Naruto simply said, and Hashirama had eyes widened at Naruto's choice. "I won't be a part of this. Sorry," Hashirama said as he walked out of the room, making everyone sigh. "Let's gear up and prepare," Tobirama said, and the remaining dragons nodded. "Don't get caught and come out clean," Tsunade warned. "I don't want the daimyo of the Fong country breathing down on my neck for attacking his land," Tsunade said, and everyone nodded. "What about Mikakan?" Kushina said sadly. "She was like a sister to me and I know that she would never go along with this," Kushina said and now chuckled sadly. "Makoto is a submissive and broken woman now," began, and Kushina focused on her. "Did you know she has the Manjikyu because she betrayed you?" now said, and Kushina was shocked. "Betrayed me?" Kushina asked, confused. "But she never did anything to hurt me in any way whatsoever," Kushina explained. "I know how," Minato replied, sighing. "Now that I know that Tobi is Fugaku, everything is clear to me." "Makoto told Fugaku where you would be delivering Naruto," Minato said, and Kushina was shocked, but she knew that it was true. Kushina had only told Makoto, her sister and most trusted friend. Makoto was responsible for the attack on Konoha. "Only I, Hiruzen and his wife, and a select few of Umbu knew of your location at that time," Minato said, and Kushina sighed, wondering how Makoto could betray her like that. "I guess I will find out what happened tonight," Kushina said, and Minato nodded. "Send word to Jiraiya about our plans," Tsunade said, and Minato nodded, placing a scroll on the toad and watched him dispel in smoke. At night, Mountain's graveyard. It was a surprisingly clear night. There were no clouds, making a perfect starry sky in the Fong country. It was also a full moon, shining brightly high in the sky, illuminating the grounds. Outside of the Uchiha's hideout was complete silence. There was no wind or any type of animals. It was the quiet before the storm. Naruto was sitting on the edge of the walls that led down into the crater where the hideout stood. Behind stood all the dragons with the exception of Hashirama, who chose not to participate in this. Naruto's hair swayed in the wind as the moon shone in the sky. To anyone else it would look like a terrifying picture, Naruto sitting down with masked shinobi behind him. "About time you arrived," Erosen and Naruto said as Jiraiya arrived near them in Ishushin. "I was far away already. I didn't want to stick around while I waited for decision on what to do," Jiraiya explained, and Naruto nodded, rising up. The Akugan Hinata shouted as her eyes flared to life and several bulges appear around her eyes. Hinata sat down as she concentrated slowly on expanding her range so she could gaze inside the hideout. "This hideout is massive. There are hundreds of chambers, hallways extending for miles," Hinata explained. "But there is only one exit, right?" Naruto asked, and Hinata nodded, confirming. "What about their numbers?" Naruto asked, wanting to know if the Uchihas were all present. 342, Hinata answered, and Naruto nodded. "It's slightly below their numbers when the clan was supposedly slaughtered a decade ago. According to Nao's intel, they have at least 5 members capable of using Susanoo. She didn't know anything about the others' powers because they kept to themselves. Naruto mused to himself. I'm going in, Naruto said, and everyone nodded and went to do their part of the plan. Naruto's part was to infiltrate the hideout. Naruto took a deep breath as he restrained his chakra levels to their lowest level, and with his level of control, only a skilled sensor would be able to pick him up. Naruto jumped down and quickly approached the main entrance. It was blocked by some gates, but Naruto could easily pass them with his Kamui. All clear, Hinata said through his intercom. Hinata would guide Naruto's movement through the base and warn him against possible enemies. Naruto nodded and phased through the door and into the hideout. Like Jiraiya had said many times, enemies never look up, so Naruto kept to the ceilings as he made his way through the hallways. The first junction is 20 meters upon your next left, Hinata said, and Naruto nodded, making his way towards the first strategic point in the hideout. Naruto focused and noticed that no one was around. He placed a hand on the ceiling and watched as kanji flowed from his hand, embedding itself on the wall, until disappearing completely from view. Naruto made a tiger seal and noticed as the seal slightly glowed before vanishing again. First seal in place, Naruto replied in a low voice, through the intercom. Naruto continued on his path, avoiding potential cluster sites and easily sneaking around any Uchihas that came around. It wasn't like they were expecting anyone sneaking in. Naruto phased through the ground beneath him and he came into another room. Naruto clung to the ceiling as he looked down to see some Uchiha resting on a couch. Naruto could feel that the Uchiha was still awake, although he was near the place where Naruto would need the next seal. While the Uchiha was about to yell when his screams were muffled by a swirling sound. Naruto had used his Kamui and, in a blink of an eye, had sent the Uchiha into his dimension. On the outside, a clone of Naruto had taken the Uchiha out of his dimension and promptly dealt with him. Fifth seal and ready, Naruto said as the seal glowed and disappeared as well. Naruto nodded to himself on a job well done and quickly sank into the walls as a couple of Uchiha stepped into the room. Where the hell is Ryo? Some Uchiha groaned. Maybe he's in the hall, the other replied as both Uchihas went searching for him. Naruto sighed in relief as he didn't want to set off any alarms, yet. Naruto made his way towards the last place and cursed his luck as the last place was crawling with Uchihas. Naruto counted at least 20 since the last place seemed like some living room or social room. How the hell am I going to plant the seal? I can't warp them all at once, Naruto cursed to himself. The plan wouldn't work without every seal being placed in the right place. Henge, Naruto muttered to himself as he transformed himself into the Uchiha he had just killed a few moments ago. Naruto sank to the outside of the room and simply walked through the doors like some ordinary member. Naruto approached the wall and very discreetly applied the seal without anyone noticing. There you are, Ryo. Naruto heard someone calling and turned to see 2 Uchihas approaching. Are we still on for tonight? The Uchihas asked and Naruto cursed his luck. He had to run just into the people that were looking for him. Hinata cannot tell my clone to read the Uchiha's mind I just sent, Naruto silently said through the intercom. Tonight? Ryo, Naruto said as he tilted his head to the side in confusion. Don't tell me you forgot? The Uchiha asked in disbelief. Naruto was wondering what else to say when he felt a rush of information. Oh right, the poker game, Ryo said, making both Uchihas chuckle. I hope you are ready to lose, Ryo smirked. Alright then. We will see you tonight at midnight, one Uchiha said as both of them walked off and Naruto sighed in relief. Naruto walked out of the room and once he was outside of everyone's view he simply swirled away of the hideout and arrived near Hinata and the others. Close call, Naruto said to out loud. All the seals are in place, let's get the rest of plan going, Naruto said. Hinata conduct, you're up, Naruto said and Hinata nodded as she took a deep breath and she sat down. Not even 5 minutes later Hinata had entered Sage mode with purple markings on her face. Senpu, second OAIM, Sage Arts, Petrifying Rain, Hinata said as heavy rain started to fall. 1. Mito. Place a barrier around Hinata since she's vulnerable when using this jutsu, Naruto said towards Mito as he looked towards Hinata who sat on the ground completely still. Naruto channeled chakra into his right hand and sent a beam into the sky. From the dark clouds of rain, several thunders roared as they lit up the night sky. Everyone turned to Naruto in confusion as his Kirin Jutsu wasn't part of the plan. Just in case, Naruto said, and everyone did their part. "We are ready," Tobirama said, and Naruto nodded as he brought his right hand and made the tiger seal. "Activate," Naruto said. Deep inside the hideout, the seal started glowing and the ground started vibrating slowly. Only a few seconds later, the whole cave started shaking. "This place is caving," some Uchiha said as specks of dust fell from the ceiling. "Everybody out," the Uchiha yelled, and everyone started running outside so that they didn't get crushed to death. Little did they know that inside was still safer. "We made it," some Uchiha said as he jumped outside, taking deep breaths. Rain?" the Uchiha muttered as he looked up to see heavy rain and thunders. "Some luck," the Uchiha thought to himself as the hideout decided to cave when it was raining. "Are they all out?" Naruto asked towards Hinata, who nodded. Naruto made another tiger hand seal and activated an explosive tag he left at the entrance of the cave. With a loud explosion, the only entrance to the cave had been completely sealed off. "RGHHH," some Uchiha yelled, making everyone look towards him. "Sabaku Taiso, giant sand burial," Gaara said as several Uchihas were enveloped by sand that rested beneath their feet. With the confusion on the hideout caving, they didn't notice that the whole earth beneath their feet was actually sand. The Uchihas were simply crushed to death. "We are under attack," some Uchiha yelled, placing everyone on high alert. Every single Uchiha had their Sharingan blazing and were looking for their enemies. "RGHHHH," another Uchiha yelled as he fell to the ground, trying to scratch something of his arms. "Get it out, get it out," the Uchiha yelled in despair as he watched his right arm begin to turn gray and unresponsive. Everyone watched in shock as their friend squirmed in the ground until he remained completely immobile and gray, turned into stone. "RGHH," another one yelled as his arm began to turn gray as well. The Uchiha fell to his knees as he tried to ignore the pain. Another Uchiha decided to take matters onto his own hands and took out his blade. In a burst of speed, he sliced the dying Uchiha's arm off. The arm fell to the ground as it turned completely into stone. "RGHH," the Uchiha whose arm just got cut off continued screaming as he started turning gray. It appeared cutting off his arm didn't even slow it down. "It's the rain," another Uchiha said as he noticed that the rain had chakra in it. "Take cover," the Uchiha yelled, and no one questioned him. Some summoned their Susanoo shield, others took cover behind some rocks or the bones that were on the grounds, and the others rose some kind of mud walls to shield them from the rain. "We managed to take out almost half," Tobirama said. They were still watching from above the walls. Hinata's rain and Gaara's sand took out almost half of the members since they were all caught off guard. "Let's finish the rest. Me, Tobirama and Minato will go in first," Naruto said as both Blondes and Tobirama jumped down, landing in the crater. The whole ground was riddled with Hiraishin seals and, as such, the remaining Uchihas never knew what hit them. "Hiraishin-jiri, flying thunder god / Tobirama said as he appeared next to an Uchiha with his Raijin no Ken, thunder god sword, extended. The Uchiha's head simply slid down his neck and hit the ground with a thumb sound. The head hit the ground, but Tobirama was already gone. "Rasengan," Minato said as an Uchiha was blasted back. Another Uchiha took the opportunity to attack Minato but only sliced air as Minato appeared behind him and slit his throat. Naruto flashed into the middle of 5 Uchihas who felt an appear. The Uchihas raised their swords and kunais. As the Uchihas were preparing their strike, Naruto flexed both wrists as long black metal blades erupted from both his palms. Naruto extended both blades forward as he spun around, quickly killing all 5 Uchihas at once. Before the blood could even touch him, he was already gone. "I know that you are there, come down," Makoto said with her manjikyu glowing and a red rib cage around her. Makoto watched as one shinobi jumped down from the roof and landed in front of her. The shinobi bore blood-red samurai-style armor with a dragon symbol emblazed in the chestplate. The shinobi had long red hair and had an equal-colored mask covering his face. "You can take your mask off." "I know who you are," Kushina, Makoto sadly said, and watched as the shinobi's mask fell to the ground, revealing Kushina, who had a sad expression at seeing the person she considered a sister. "I don't know how you are alive, but it's good to see you again," Makoto said, smiling. "Did you really tell Fugaku where I was giving birth?" Kushina said with a neutral face. Makoto only nodded. Why did you do it? Kushina asked, frowning. I thought we were like sisters, Kushina said. What would you choose, Kushina? Makoto asked, but Kushina was confused. Minato or Konoha, Makoto added, and Kushina remained silent. I chose to stay by my family's side, but now I regret it, Makoto sadly said. You can put all of this behind and come with us. It's not too late, Mikakan, Kushina desperately said, and Makoto gave a hollow chuckle. Always the forgiving heart, Makoto said, smiling as her eyes glowed and her Susanoo increased. An arm sprouted from her Susanoo and a red saber appeared in its hand. Futon no Yoroi, wind armor, Kushina said as her body became surrounded by a ghostly white aura. Makoto swinged her sword but caught only air as Kushina was long gone. Her wind armor drastically reduced wind resistance, allowing Kushina a large boost in physical speed. Wind/Kushina said as she channeled Churka through her katana, giving it a blue hue. Kushina flicked her blade and released a blue wave. Makoto brought her saber and simply broke it like nothing. Makoto's Susanoo raised her saber and was about to swing it down when several golden chains sprouted from the ground, wrapping itself around her arm and pinning her Susanoo to the ground. Mikakan, stop this, Kushina pleaded, but Makoto just smiled sadly as she blurred through hand seals. Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu, great fireball technique, Makoto said, taking a deep breath and unleashing a torrent of flames. The flames washed into the ground but only hit Kushina's after image. Kushina's sword glowed a brighter blue as she reappeared next to Makoto's Susanoo and sliced its arm off. The Susanoo's arm fell to the ground and simply faded from view as another one was born. Makoto dropped her Susanoo as the chains fell to the ground and retracted back into Kushina. Kushina flexed her blade forward and channeled a large amount of chakra through her body. Dragon dive, Kushina said as she exploded from her location, flying forward at blinding speeds towards Makoto. Makoto smiled sadly as her Manjikyu pattern seemed to change. Kuranasu, god of time, Makoto thought to herself as her eyes pulsed. She saw Kushina begin to slow down until she stopped. Makoto looked around and even the rain seemed to stop and over in the air. All around her, everything had come to a halt. I'm sorry, old friend, I hope you can forgive me, Makoto sadly said as she placed herself right in front Kushina's sword. Why do you wish to die? Naruto asked as he suddenly appeared next to both women. Makoto's eyes widened when she saw Naruto. How can you move? My ability can slow down time to the point that everything stops, Makoto said, surprised. I can do something similar, so I easily felt what you were doing, Naruto chuckled, and Makoto was surprised to see another time-related ability. You didn't answer my question though, Naruto said, and Makoto lowered her head. I deserve it. After everything I did, all the lives that were lost because of me. I just want to lay it behind me and rest, Makoto said sadly, and Naruto nodded, allowing Makoto to make her own choices. Thank you, Makoto said as she stopped her jutsu and Kushina pierced Makoto's chest with her sword. And no, Kushina said in shock as she delivered a fatal blow to Makoto. She didn't understand what happened. One moment Makoto was far away from her, the other she was right at the tip of her blade. WWHY? Kushina asked, sobbing as her friend laid at the death's gates. Cough, IIT was my choice, Kushinachan, Makoto said, smiling as a trail of blood ran down from her mouth. DDO, you forgive me? Makoto barely managed to get out. She could feel her life slipping away. Of course I do, Mikakan, Kushina said, and Makoto let out her last breath. Kushina lowered her body's friend to the ground and looked at Makoto, who had a gentle smile in her face. Naruto, Kushina screamed, and in a flash Naruto was by her side. What happened? Naruto asked, fainting confusion. Bring her back, Kushina said as tears ran down her face. No, Naruto simply replied, closing his eyes. As much as it hurt him to see his mother in tears, he wouldn't change Makoto's choices. What? Kushina roared, getting up and standing at Naruto's level. Bring her back, Kushina ordered, but Naruto remained still. Kushina jumped towards Naruto in rage, who simply held her as she weakly punched his chest. Please bring her back, Kushina pleaded, and Naruto shut his eyes to stop tears from coming out. I know it's hard, but she chose this fate. Accept it and honor her memory, Naruto said, and simply held Kushina as she cried openly. A few minutes later Kushina had calmed down and both son and mother split. Feeling better? Naruto asked with a small smile while Kushina just stared at Makoto's dead form. It's done, Tobirama said as he arrived near Naruto. He looked around to see that the Uchiha clan had been decimated. What about the bodies? Tobirama asked. If your opponent is of a choleric temper, seek to irritate him, Naruto said, and Tobirama raised an eyebrow. Leave them behind as a message to Fugaku, Naruto said, and Tobirama shrugged his shoulders. He couldn't care less. No, Kushina softly said. I want to bring Mikakan with me and give her a proper burial, Kushina said, and Naruto nodded, smiling as he tossed Kushina a sealing scroll. The Uchiha clan, one of the strongest clans in the whole elemental nations, one of the founding clans of Konoha, possessing of hundreds of members and bearer of the Sharingan bloodline, had been massacred in a few minutes.